Good morning. Welcome to the Derry Town Council workshop, budget workshop. And also this morning we have an appeal regarding an order. Today is Saturday, April 5th. Councilor Webb, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those new in the back of the room, the emergency exits, if you have a cell phone, please silence it. If you need help in the event of emergency, please ask one of the gentlemen in the uniforms for your help, and they will give you a hand. First in the order of business will be 25-36, appeal of order issued pursuant to General Code Chapter 56, Orange Spa, and that's order number 2025-001. Do we have Ms. Ying Koi? Please come up to the podium. Oh. You can take a seat right there. And while you're doing that, we're going to do a roll call. Councilor Canessi.
Good morning.
Councilor Webb.
Good morning.
Councilor Spencer.
Good morning.
Councilor Chase.
Good morning.
Councilor Moshe.
Good morning.
And good evening from the chair. Good morning from the chair. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Already.
All right. Yeah. Hi. So please state your name and your.
说你的名字。
Yin Tree.
Okay. And are you here?
Yeah, my name is Benson Lee. I'm serving as her interpreter.
Okay.
Thanks.
So just have her tell her case of why we're here this morning. What is it we're trying to do this morning?
OK， 你说说你有什么，我替他解释。
我收到了烫里的信
I received a letter from the town.
呀，说我广告，还有另一个问题是，员工的问题。
They mentioned about problem with the advertising, and also the staff problem.
呀，广告是我花钱找广告公司打的。
OK, I spend money and I hire an advertising agency to handle the ad.
员工是我自己，一直是我自己在做工。
I'm the only operator in the spa.
因为生意也不好，只能养活我一个人，所以只有我一个人在里面做工。
Because the business only can sustain one person, it's myself.
这次我们收到了信，不知道这个烫里的规定，收到信以后我就立马把广告停掉了。
Okay, because my ignorance of the advertising ordinance, so once I received the letter, I have a complete stop on the ad and I notify the agency.
我也是倾尽了所有做了这个小生意，希望给我一次机会。
I spent all my savings to open up this small business, so I'm hoping for one chance.
只是一个生活，打工也不容易，只是维持一个生活。
It's only for a livelihood, you're not trying to make a lot of money.
希望给我一个机会，以后我这辈子也不会犯这种错误了。
She's asking for a last chance, and she pledged she won't make any mistake if there's a mistake. And I don't know if is this important. She make copies of the check that she paid to the advertising agency. May I present to the board?
Yes.
Thank you.
这个好，那个不是。
Thank you. Is this our copy, or do you need that?
要我看。
你可以说说吗？
说我写的那个信，这个给他，这个给他，我写的信。
She wrote some response to the health department. I don't know, do you have it on file? The email exchange?
Yes.
You do? Okay, great. 你说说你可以这个有什么就添加的，你叫我说吧。
你说，帮我说一下吧。
Okay.
这个就是
She wrote something in Chinese and asked me to elaborate a little bit. So basically, the board has the power to help this lady to keep his livelihood. And actually, you have the power in the future, anytime. You can check up on her anytime, okay? If there's one shred of illegal stuff, close her down. No more argument. So, usually she said she got no prior warning. Okay, she received a letter, it ceased to operation. But she did all she can. Again, she stopped all the advertising. And in the future, she said she's going to put a board in front of the store if she has a chance, because it actually costs money to spend on advertising also. So that's basically it.
Okay.
Okay.
谢谢，希望
Thank you.
给我个机会。
One more
谢
chance.
谢谢谢
So,
给个机
just
会
one question. So what is the nature of the business?
你做什么生意的？
massage
She's a licensed massage establishment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the only service provided is this
你只是
massage?
做这个服务吗？
No nails or anything else
没
or
没有做其他没有吧
nothing
？No,
else?
no, no, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could who has that copy of that check? I'll look at it one more time, please. Thank you.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
可以了。
Good to Dave and Mike. Mr. Town Administrator.
Yeah, I'd like to ask our health officer and our code enforcement officer to present some information to the council on this issue.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
For those that don't know you, I'm Bob Mackey with the Code Enforcement Office. And this is
Courtney
Courtney,
Bogart,
our
Health Officer.
Yeah. Just to bring the council up to speed, back in 2023, the town adopted through the town council a massage ordinance which set certain parameters for operation of a massage facility, also requires annual licensing, and so forth. So with this current business that we're dealing with, Orange, it had come to the attention of this department and the health department, obviously. Courtney did a lot of work on this for sure, that there was some advertising that was out there that's, as of recently as the 2nd of April, was still out there. It was obviously advertising for more people for the business, unlicensed people. Certainly in New Hampshire, in order to provide massage, you need to be a licensed massage therapist. So, based on that information, we had sent a letter out, Brittany had sent a letter out requiring that they cease operation for that, and that per that regulation, someone does have 10 days to request a hearing before the town council, and they're supposed to hold that hearing within 3 days. So here we are. It has since come to our attention, since that letter went out, that the applicant had also been arrested down in Delaware for some crimes, and arrested and convicted. And one of the provisions of our ordinance is that if you are arrested and convicted of a sexually related crime, you're not eligible for a license. So with that being said, I know the council has a document with some bullet points on it, and I'd just like to run through that real quick, if I could. So the applicant had pled guilty to prostitution in Delaware in 2022. The applicant, Young C., falsified the permit application submitted to the town on 4/30/24 by affirmatively stating that the applicant has never been within the past 10 years convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled. Again, that application that was submitted for her license last year, there is a space on that that you're supposed to answer whether or not you've been convicted of a crime. At that point, she said no. Number 3, the applicant, Young C., filed a renewal permit application with the town on 3/20/25 by affirmatively stating that the applicant has been within the past 10 years convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled by a court. And it was on that permit renewal, when she had indicated she had been arrested, that some investigation was done and led back to this convictions in Delaware. As I already stated, based on our regulations and also under the state RSAs, she would not be eligible to obtain a state license. The applicant, Young C., certified to the health department she is the only massage therapist at 37 Crystal Ave. Again, the advertising, whether or not it's been taken down at this point, would certainly lead one to believe that that is not the case. Again, there's no other massage licenses with that facility. It's only that single lady that has that license. So I guess based on those points, then we would be asking the council to uphold that decision to permanently rescind the license. Any questions?
Any questions from the councilors to the staff?
Not right now.
All right, thank you. Mr. Town
Thank
Administrator, do you have anything to add?
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I do not. The council is asked to review and take a vote on each of the bullet points which the code enforcement officer just presented to the council based upon the information and documentation you have in your packet.
Okay, thank you. All right, councilors, so based on this morning's testimonies that we've heard, we're going to go to the papers that you have in front of you, the findings by the Derry Town Council, Saturday, April 5th, 2025, in the matter of Orange Incorporated in Yinkoi. Based upon the information presented, we're going to go through these bullet points line by line. So, number 1, the applicant, Yinkoi, pled guilty of promoting prostitution in Delaware in 2022. So we're going to do a roll call if you are in agreement with that. Councilor Granessi?
To the question 1,
Yes.
I'm voting yes. There's sufficient facts to vote yes.
Councilor Webb?
I feel there are sufficient facts to vote yes.
Councilor Spencer?
Yes.
Councilor Chase?
Yes.
Councilor Mojay?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Number 2, the applicant, Ian Coy, falsified the permit application submitted to the town on 4/30/24 by affirmatively stating that the applicant has never been, within the past 10 years, convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled by a court. Councilor Granessi?
I'm going to vote yes. Due to the evidence that's presented, there's sufficient facts to vote yes.
Councilor Webb?
I'll vote yes.
Councilor Spencer?
Yes.
Councilor Chase?
Yes.
Councilor Mojay? Chair votes yes. Number 3, the applicant, Ian Coy, filed a renewal permit application with the town on 3/20/25 by affirmatively stating the applicant has been, within the past 10 years, convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled by the court. On the motion, Councilor Granessi?
I'm going to vote yes. Sufficient facts and evidence presented.
Councilor Webb?
Yes.
Councilor Spencer?
Yes.
Councilor Chase?
Yes.
Councilor Mojay?
Yes.
You want to vote on this?
Yeah, I read it last night. I'm aware of it, so yes.
So we're on number 3, and you heard the testimony. So number 3, are you a yes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I
Okay.
read it last night.
I also am a yes. Number 4, said affirmative statement renders the applicant ineligible to obtain a state license under RSA 328-B6, C, and/or RSA 328B8, 4. Councilor Granessi?
Yes, due to the evidence and the RSAs, I'm voting yes.
Counselor Webb.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Bourget. Yes. Counselor McEachern.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Spencer.
Yes, yes.
Been a long morning. Number 5, the applicant, Yin Koi, certified to the Health Department that she's the only massage therapist at 37 Crystal Ave, number 8 in Derry. Counselor Granessi.
Due to her testimony and the evidence, I'm going to vote yes.
Counselor Webb.
Due to her testimony and evidence, I'll vote yes.
Counselor Spencer.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Mojay.
Yes.
Counselor McEachern.
Same for the reasoning that's been provided, yes.
And the chair concurs. I vote yes. Number 6, information discovered by the Health Department promoted the business as a location whereby many other women were engaging in massage or other activities. Counselor Granessi.
Due to the evidence presented by the Health Department, I'm going to vote yes.
Counselor Webb.
I'll vote yes.
Counselor Spencer.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Mojay. Counselor McEachern.
Yes, as stated by Councilor Guarnessi.
Chair also votes yes in concurrence. Number 7, no other massage therapists are licensed by the town at that location. Counselor Granessi.
According to the testimony and the evidence presented, I'm voting yes.
Counselor Webb.
I'm voting yes.
Counselor Spencer.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Mojay. Counselor McEachern.
Yes, as presented.
And I concur. I vote yes. Number 8, based upon the foregoing, it is recommended the town council uphold the license rescission of Yin Koi and Orange Incorporated to operate at 37 Crystal Avenue, Unit Number 8, in Derry, New Hampshire, or any other location in Derry, New Hampshire for violation of Derry General Code, Section 56-1, purpose and statutory authority. Section 56-5C, application procedure, information required, Section 56-6B, conditions of licenses, Section 56-8, proof on individual state license required, Section 56-14, prohibited acts. Counselor Granessi.
Due to the evidence and the violation of the Derry General Codes, I'm voting yes.
Counselor Webb.
Due to the evidence and the violations of dairy codes and RSA, I'm voting yes.
Counselor Spencer.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Mojay. Counselor McEachern.
Yes, for reasons stated by Guarnessi and Webb.
And the chair also concurs. I vote yes. Number 9. Counselor Granessi, do you find the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Counselor Webb, do you find the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved?
Yes, I do.
Counselor Spencer, do you find the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved?
Yes, I do.
Counselor Chase, do you find these proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved?
Yes.
Counselor Mojay, do you find the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved? Yes. Counselor McEachern, do you find the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And the chair finds that the proposed order submitted with these proposed findings is approved. We have an order pursuant to Town General Code, Chapter 56, proposed order that we'll read in for the record. And that's the staff having presented proposed findings of fact, now present the following proposed order in the matter of Yin Koi and Orange Incorporated. Would somebody like to read that into the record?
I will read it, Mr. Chair. Whereas the Town Council, under Ordinance 2023-006, adopted Chapter 56, regulating massages, saunas, and other types of baths, and whereas Chapter 56 has authorized the Derry Health Department to implement the provisions of this chapter, and whereas the town received a renewal application under this chapter from Young Chi and to operate a massage establishment at 37 Crystal Avenue, Unit 8, and whereas during the review of the application, information was discovered which alleged noncompliance with the requirements of Chapter 56. And whereas the applicant was notified that its facility license was rescinded, whereas the applicant pursuant to Section 5610 has appealed said rescission to the Town Council, ordered after review of the information submitted by the applicant and the Derry Health Department pursuant to authority set forth in Section 5610, the Town Council has upheld the rescission of the license application issued to Young Chu to operate a massage establishment at 37 Crystal Avenue, Unit 8, based upon the following. The applicant, Young Chu, pleaded guilty to promoting prostitution in Delaware in 2022. The applicant, Young Chu, falsified the permit application submitted to the town on 4/30/2024 by affirmatively stating that the applicant has never been, within the past 10 years, convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled by a court. The applicant, Ying Chu, filed a renewal permit application with the town on 3/20/2025 by affirmatively stating that the applicant has been, within the past 10 years, convicted of a sexually related crime or a crime involving moral turpitude, the record of which has not been annulled by a court. Said affirmative statement renders the applicant ineligible to obtain a state license under RSA 328B6C and/or RSA 328B84. The applicant, Ning Chu, certified to the health department that she is the only massage therapist at 37 Crystal Ave, number 8, Derry. Information discovered by the health department promoted the business location whereby many other women were engaging in massage or other activities. No other massage therapists are licensed by the town at that location. Based upon the foregoing, it is recommended that the town council uphold the license rescission of Ying Chu to Crystal Ave, Unit 8, Derry, New Hampshire, or any other location in Derry, New Hampshire, for violation of Derry General Code, Section 56.1, Purpose and Statutory Authority, Section 56.5C. Application procedure information required, Section 56.6B, Conditions of License, Section 56.8, Proof of Individual State License required, Section 56.14, Prohibited Acts. This rescission also includes the corporation known as Orange Inc.
Thank you.
Need a second? I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So on the proposed order as just read by Councilor Spencer, we're going to do a roll call vote on that. So Councilor Granessi,
Yes.
Councilor Webb,
Yes.
Councilor Spencer,
Yes.
Councilor Chase,
Yes.
Councilor Mouget,
Yes.
Councilor McGuckern,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. 7-0. Okay, Mr. Town
Yes,
Administrator.
councilors, please, for the record, please complete these forms to record your votes, sign them, and we'll pass them on to the clerk. Also, the order you just approved, if you can sign that, and Mike will be passing that around for our record. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The master, yeah, Dave's gonna pass it on here. So should I tell him? Yeah. So, after hearing the testimony this morning, hearing both sides of it, we're going to concur with the town, and we're going to support the town's proceedings.
Okay, I
So-
understand. I'll explain to her that. Okay,
So, yeah, so
yeah, okay,
the order that she was provided by the town is in effect.
it's uphold. Understand.
Okay.
I'll let her know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I'll do this one after. No, I gotta sign it still. All right, sorry, Chief, trying to get some administrative stuff done here. All right, now we'll move on to the FY '26 budget workshop. First up will be the fire department. Looks like Chief Haggard and Chief Laro will be presenting. Thank you, Courtney, and thank you, Mr. Mackey.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Starting with the Good morning. Thank you for having us this morning. First, I'd like to start with just a brief snapshot of where the fire department and emergency management is over the last year. The Derry Fire Department is currently authorized for 78 full-time employees, operating from 4 stations, with additional administrative staff assigned to the Derry Municipal Center and the vehicle maintenance facility at the police station. These dedicated members are responsible for delivering high-quality emergency and non-emergency services, including fire suppression, emergency medical services, fire prevention, emergency communications, and community risk reduction initiatives. A couple of key accomplishments from the past year. Our department responded to 5,308 emergency incidents, and our communication center processed 8,711 incidents. As part of the succession planning, which was supported by the executive department of the town, our department's strategic plan was refreshed. Individual professional development plans were developed for key employees, and the study of the Fire Prevention Bureau was completed to identify efficiencies and a strategic path forward. Our Communications Center renewed APCO 33 program certification, which ensures our in-house training program remains accredited. We're in the final stages of our 3-year renewal process for our CAS accreditation of the ambulance service, which we've maintained for over 20 years. We've launched public safety initiatives, including distributions of ice picks for self-rescue, life jackets, AEDs, smoke alarms, stovetop extinguishers, and we have re-engaged with the School District Safety Committee. A facilities assessment was completed to provide long-term roadmap for station maintenance and capital improvements of our 3 substations, with no immediate critical needs identified. We were fortunate to accept a charitable donation from that will largely fund a new training facility, which will promise to open many doors in the future. We've developed an internal merit program to recognize our members for meritorious actions.
Thank you.
Our biggest challenge has been maintaining temporary vacancies due to short-term disability workers' compensation, military leave, as well as filling permanent vacancies created by retirements. It's been particularly difficult to recruit paramedics. At one point, we had 13 holes in our roster. Currently, we have 4 vacant paramedic positions. As far as the future, the Derry Fire Department is a very young department, both in age and experience. 67% of our members have less than 10 years of service currently. 44 have less than 5, and of that, 25% have less than 2 years of service. While we continue to recruit high-quality candidates with great energy, the department must now prioritize development programs for both firefighters and company officers to maintain operational efficiencies and effectiveness. We look forward to taking possession of and occupying the new headquarters fire station this fall. This transition will require decommissioning of the current central station, relocation of staff and equipment, including personnel currently operating out of this building. We anticipate continuing to be impacted by rising apparatus costs and procurement delays. The average apparatus cost has increased 200% over the last 10 years. Lead times for procurement have extended into the 3 to 5 year range, further complicating our fleet maintenance. We'd now like to present our FY26 budget for emergency management in the fire department, which was developed to advance our department, overcome any anticipated challenges, and meet the needs of our community. The Emergency Management Department has no full-time employees. Last year, some accomplishments included updating the COOP plan, finishing the rollout of our UTV, which is on its 2nd deployment today. The first deployment was by the police department, as well as upgrades to the mobile command unit. Over the next year, we'll be refreshing our hazmat plan, finishing through a EMPG grant for a trailer for the UTV, and continuing to develop our certain relationships with various town stakeholders. The budget for EM will show a decrease of 37.8%. This is largely, last year's EM budget was very similar to this year's EM budget. What you see is a $77,144 was a result from FEMA funds recaptured from last April storms that was inserted back into the emergency management budget. CIP, you're also looking at a decrease in projects that we're looking to accomplish over the next year there. Again, focused on the mobile command unit. We're looking to establish a tethered drone. The tethered drone allows for prolonged operations. It doesn't necessarily require an operator dedicated to it, and can fly for many hours. Any questions about the EM budget?
Councilors? Stand by.
Went out of order. What page?
127.
The emergency management starts on page 15.
Yeah, they went out of order. What page, Jack?
15.
15.
1-5.
the reductions were one-time costs? In the budget, you gave the 54% and the 37%. I mean, those are pretty significant.
Right,
So
so
those
for,
like, one time we bought the drone, now we don't need the drone and everything's okay?
yeah,
or-
let's start with the operating budget. The reason it shows the 77,000 versus roughly 50,000 where it was last year is the money that was recaptured from the April storm and given to us from FEMA.
Okay.
So it was inserted in there and kind of looks like it inflated the budget. For the capital improvements, yeah, currently we're just focused on the one project, the tethered drone for next year.
So you're comfortable with capital improvements for next year then?
Yes, I
You
am.
got what you need, okay, fine. So what's your bottom line? Happy to move the bottom line of, is it 47,957?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Counselor McGuckern moved the bottom line, seconded by Counselor Ganessi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So emergency management is done. I wish.
Excuse me. Now on to the fire department budget. In personnel accounts, we're looking at a 5.9% increase. The three main drivers here are CBA adjustments, the increased cost in healthcare that you're seeing across all the other departments, as well as an increased plan for overtime. Currently for overtime, a lot of this is, the big driver of our overtime is vacancies. At this time of the year, the numbers this week were 116% expended of our overtime. The largest drivers of our overtime is vacant positions, followed by scheduled leave, and the next one would be coming workers' comp and short-term disability. For operations and maintenance, we're looking at a 9% increase. The main driver here is the opening of the new headquarters fire station. And you can see the associated cost of electricity, HVAC, as well as $7,000 for the maintenance contract for the elevator. The other large increase to acknowledge here is the cost in vehicle maintenance. So combining the personnel and the O&Ms, the overall increase is 6%. Again, this is primarily driven by the personnel cost. For offsetting revenue, our revenue sources include intermunicipal dispatch contracts, as well as ambulance contracts, funding from billing, and administrative functions. Currently, this time of the year, we're 87.5% collected of our $1,465,000 anticipated revenue for ambulance services. Of that, 15% comes from our contract communities. Our contracts with the town of Auburn is in year 1 of 7. We just renewed that. We're in year 8 of 10 for Chester, or year 7 of 10 for Wyndham.
That was a gift.
The Fire Prevention Division, which includes inspections, permit fees, and plans reviews, responsible for collecting $100,000 of this money. These numbers combined place our net budget increasing of 6%. Again, acknowledging the primary driver here is cost related to personnel cost. As far as capital projects, our capital reserve balance of February 28th, 2025 was just over $2 million. We have not received the balances as of March. The capital projects we're hoping to fund in FY26 include updating our water rescue equipment, which includes a light boat, funding replacement of structural turnout gear for firefighters, 10% AFG match for the 2022 funds that weren't expended, replacement of a staff vehicle, updating of some vertical rescue and rope rescue equipment, the 10% match for the cardiac monitors that we're looking for the 2024 AFG grant, $10,000 for fleet maintenance, $10,000 for fire investigation tools, and one of the ones we're most excited about is the $50,000 supporting the $650,000 donation for the fire training facility. Ongoing is the Motorola communication systems maintenance and upgrade, which is shared with the PD. any questions we can address about our budget.
Any questions? Councilor Ganassi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, just one question. Just being curious, the turnout gear for staff, how much is that per, rough idea, per, firefighter? Just being curious.
Roughly $4,000. One of the challenges we're having right now is there's been a technology change and a safety shift concerning PFAS. So we expect, as with all costs are increasing, as we try to find an alternative of PFAS gear for firefighters, that cost could also increase in the future.
Yeah, and my other question, I'm just being curious because we want to, give, our public safety, fire officers and police officers and public works people, the best equipment we can get. That's why I was just kind of curious what it costs. And what's the lifespan that the firefighters should wear them at?
The current recommendations from NFPA is 10 years. Our goal as a department is that each member in the department has NFPA compliant gear as their primary set. Their secondary set may fall out of the date range while their primary set is being decontaminated.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor McGuckin?
Dude,
Oh, no, go ahead, Jim.
no, you got a while.
All right. Just a couple of things. What percentage of what is the ratio of personnel costs to operational costs in your budget? And how does it affect your operations and programs going forward?
Consistent in historical, with historical averages, our personnel represents 94% of our budget. That's remained pretty consistent 9-10 years. Nationally, in industry standard, for personnel, typically the budget takes up roughly 80%, changes geographically by spaces. One of the quotes I heard recently is that when you're operating with an O&M budget of roughly 90%, your department in some ways is dysfunctional, and you're spending your funds basically existing with existing projects. You're not growing or starting new projects or not renewing equipment at a similar rate. So in some ways, it stunts us.
I know in the past year that you've applied for a series of grants, including AFG grants and stuff like that. Can you give us a brief summary of where some of those competitive grants stand?
So 3 grants that I can think of off the bat is AFG 22. That's the remaining funds from when we did power stretcher loads, and then the current AFG where we're looking to update our cardiac monitors. And we also have a grant in process, an EMPG grant with the state of New Hampshire for a utility trailer. All those grants, based on everything that's happening on a federal level right now, are in a holding pattern. We have nothing further until we hear more from above.
Yeah.
I can give you a little bit of context on the 2022 one. So we contracted with a grant writer to review my application, and when we submitted it, once the federal political movements started to hit, I reached out to him to write an amendment so that we could procure the remaining funds from 2022. He advised that we would get the amendment completed, but we should not submit it right now because it would just fall at the bottom of the pile and potentially be lost. So we are holding off on submitting the amendment for AFG 2022, I'm sorry, until we get a better idea of what the future of FEMA and the AFG program looks like.
Yeah, because I remember you had also applied for battery-operated tools. Well, no, that was...
That grant was declined last year by FEMA?
And as well as the EMS coats?
That was also declined.
Okay. And I know that you have a grant for the cardiac monitor. So what is, because federal funding is up in the air, I think competitive grants may be very difficult. And I know that you can't put them in a budget under federal rules because that's, what's the technical, supplanting?
Supplanting.
Yeah, suborning. So going forward in the next year, because I know like the EMS codes and so forth are important, do you have and you don't have to answer this today, because I know it's pretty could be a complex question, but what is your plan going on to do some of these needs? Like the cardiac monitors, which were what, 60,000 each?
Yeah, certainly the future has some unpredictability towards it, and that's why we try to remain conservative in our budgeting. With our operating expenses as it is, historically, we find ourselves often having to move around funds for the more urgent need. I suspect there'll be some more of that in the future, as well as reprioritizing needs as we proceed, as well as also pursue non-governmental grants. One of the budget lines that I put in this year's budget was a small amount of money to fund a grant writer. Hopefully that'll be a pathway to securing some funds in the future.
And again, off the top of your head, this going to the overtime, sorry if I'm taking up so much time.
Good. So,
But how much of that overtime has to be set aside just to send the additional people to paramedic school?
I can answer overall paramedic school per employees coming out to $23,000, including tuition, wages, travel, books, that kind of stuff. The actual breakdown of costs associated
That's
with that,
good.
I would have to get
Yeah.
back to you on it.
And with the new station, what opportunities do you think, once you move into the new station, get it equipped and set up and get it running, what additional opportunities do you think that station might, and the training building, from a program standpoint, may offer you?
I'll break this up into two. I'll hit the first one, and due to Assistant Chief Solero's passion, I'll give him the training facility. The new station is going to create a lot of opportunities beyond increasing the services that we provide to that portion of town. One of the things is with the communication center's development, I think it'll open us opportunities to trying to pursue additional contracts and revenue sources. Additionally, it's going to have a state-of-the-art training room, which we hope to open up as a community room for the community.
So as far as the training facility goes, as the chief mentioned, I'm very excited about this. So a couple of opportunities that I foresee coming are the potential development and support of a regional explorer post through the scouting movement. They're documented as a way that we are able to recruit good employees. So that opportunity is there. And then additionally, rather long-term, I think we're looking at hopefully developing some type of a partnership with Pinkerton Academy, where we can develop a vocational program for getting students certified in firefighting by the time that they are able to test legally. And even beyond that, we anticipate opening this facility up for use to our mutual aid partners and the other departments around us. And really developing a better working relationship in terms of firefighting tactics and training.
How many employees do you have deployed right now?
Currently employed, authorized, deployed.
Yeah, with National Guard, reserves, et cetera.
We have one member currently deployed.
So that's a basically a temporary vacant position that has to be filled with overtime, correct?
So since we started tracking, it's only in recent years that we started tracking costs associated with our members that are in the military. It's a growing number. Rough numbers again, the last years of last week were roughly $44,000 associated with a backfill related to military time. We continue to target and recruit veterans and active military people. I suspect that number will continue to increase as a result in the future.
All right. Thank you. I'm all set.
Thank you. Councilman McGuckran?
Yeah, this might be actually more for Dave. When's the solar farm going online?
It's for Mike,
Oh,
actually.
Mike.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry.
I jumped right on that one.
Boom, boom, left, right, left.
So we are breaking ground in mid-April. They've been working on the permitting and finishing all up the items associated with that. If everything works out according to construction schedule, we should be completed by December 2025. And then there's a little bit of work we still have to figure out if the grid from the solar panel farm back out to Ford Way, if there's any improvements on that. But I could see first quarter 2026,
Okay.
we should have that online.
6.8 cents now, is that where?
6.8 cents. It might go down a little bit based on our final use of a Department of Energy grant, but that will be distributed throughout 30 buildings in the town.
The reason I'm asking is line 410 went up exponentially. I'm assuming a chunk of that is the central fire station versus, the one at the Rotary, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be significantly bigger, but that's still mathematically, it's a bigger increase than I would have thought. So can you help me out with the electricity?
Yeah, obviously it's a much larger building. You're also absorbing staff coming from the municipal center here there as well. Also included in that line is utilities that are still going to be utilized to an unknown date at 131 East Broadway. So it is a combination of running both buildings for an undetermined amount of time.
Okay, so, and that was gonna be my next question. When are we selling the fire station at the Rotary?
We've already looked at different possibilities at this point, but we're really waiting until the building is vacant, which we're shooting, I believe, for September.
So we think the building will be vacant in September.
That's what our goal is, yes, unless that's changed in the last month or so, Mike. Is that still target?
That is, and I'd also like to add, one of the things, Sean and I had a lot of discussion about how we represented the electricity line within his department's budget. So there are a couple of moving pieces. The new building, we don't 100% know, but we used some national averages for a 30,000 square foot building, applied that to come up with roughly an additional $50,000 of cost for electricity. That may be less. I'm hoping it's less once all the efficient equipment is online. Next year, we'll have a much more refined number, but we want it to be at least conservative as far as what we were looking at. And also, we do have to keep some communication equipment going, and we can't, even if we were to look at selling that building, we're going to be probably December, January. We're going to have to keep that building marginally warm and also secure throughout until we have a final, sale. And that's obviously something I'm going to be discussing with the council as we move forward.
So totally off the subject, the sale of that building, we're tied with the lease for the telecom. So as an offshoot, not to slow this down.
Correct.
I'd like to
So
know
that's
what we're
another
doing with
aspect that we
right?
need to look
Because
at.
that was a long-term.
Yes.
That was done back in the 90s when I was here.
Yep. And we would
First time.
want to make sure we reconcile. There's some good revenue that you'll see within the Department of Public Works budget
Yep.
that you don't want to give up.
Correct. And then any sale of that building, are we anticipating the sale of the building going to the CapEx fund for the fire department? Keeping it within the family, as it were, since a fire truck costs what? Like $1 million to buy a fire truck now?
The,
1 million. Up.
1.2 was.
I'm in the neighborhood.
we
So-
built the financing of a new fire station predicating on the first $500,000 of the sale.
Okay.
Is going against a debt service.
All right.
Any revenues above that, that will be the discretion of the council where those funds are transferred to.
All right. Okay, and then just quickly on the personnel, because I've been watching that the last several years. I got, as always, a couple of my books up here. Are we at full staff right now?
No. Currently, I have 4 vacant paramedic positions, 1 vacant firefighter position, 1 vacant secretarial position. We're in the process of onboarding 2 firefighters, hopefully at the end of the month. That'll fill 1 of them, and 1 will replace a promotion from a retirement, so that'll leave us with 4. The closing for the executive secretary was last Friday, so hopefully in the following weeks here, we'll be filling that position. So as far as vacancies, I'm looking at starting the year with 4 vacant paramedic positions.
And the increase in overtime, because once we're at full staffing, I would assume overtime would start coming down. So, and I understand the 1 person deployed, as Jack mentioned, but I'm a little hesitant on the overtime going up if we're close to full staffing.
Our historical average, our staffing has fluctuated, and as I said, at one point I was down to 13 vacancies. This year I had 8 vacant paramedic positions. Historical average, we've been at 3.5 shifts per day that we're filling. We've seen some volatile years where our staffing's up and down, but historically we've 3.5 vacancies per day is our average, and that's what that number is built on.
So most of the reflection in permanent staff and obviously benefits is, it's all based on a full-time staffing number with the new CBA, right, Dave?
Well, the way we do we fund all the positions, number 1.
Right.
And as far as the benefits go, we do not fund the vacant positions at a family plan. It's been our history whereby we haven't filled them at level, so
Yep.
I believe it's somewhere between single and two-person for a budgeting perspective for those positions.
Yeah, I mean, budget for the worst case and hope for the best. No, that's fine, but the increases in permanent staffing was due to the CBA being redone? Because we haven't added people, so we still have the same number, right? What we had last year, we have this year as budgeted positions.
Correct.
So if in 2025 we had, I'm picking a number, 80 people, 2026 is 80 people.
Correct.
So therefore, all the increases are due to the CBA.
Yeah, we haven't added any frontline fire personnel in a number of years.
Well, I'm just talking the whole budget. So the
Yeah.
budget isn't just firefighters, it's the secretaries, it's the.
Yeah, it's the entire
everybody,
operation.
right?
That's
So
correct.
the entire budget is based on a number. That number hasn't changed.
That's correct.
But if a bunch of people are retiring and new people are coming in, should that number be adjusted a little less then? Because we're getting rid of higher paid, bringing in, I'm just curious about the increase. I want to make sure.
There are two components, is that there are merit increases, or actually step increases.
Right.
For those employees who have yet to reach maximum step. That's 4% for this unit. And
Okay.
then there's a COLA applied for all employees, so.
Correct.
Although you will see some savings in theory, what happens is if you've got a captain retiring, lieutenant moves up, so the delta is not that great. And so that's why the personnel increase is greater than the 3.5% cost of living, because you have to
you
include
got
the
the
steps.
steps.
That's
No.
correct.
We got the steps until they reach the top step. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Counselor Chase.
I just have one question. As you alluded to, the cost of apparatus has gone up 200%, plus build-out time has increased greatly.
Million's good, though.
Are you coming up with a plan to extend the life of the existing apparatus you have and tying it in with your maintenance budget to make sure you have enough to extend the life of that apparatus?
The future for the fleet maintenance will certainly be challenging to us as the prices continue to increase. One of the benchmarks that we're looking at is opening the new station and getting a better understanding of what deployment will look like, miles on the trucks, those kind of things, and making some decisions as a result of that. There is that $17,000 increase in the O&Ms that you saw that is targeted towards fleet maintenance to keep our trucks going a little longer. In the capital reserve plan, the next replacement of our 2011 engine was pushed back 2 years. And again, recognizing procurement, once we order in 2 years, we're looking 2 to 4 years until accepting delivery is the turnaround of these apparatus now. So the future will be a challenge.
Yeah, to the chief's point, the day that we place the order, we're on average guaranteed at least 36 months before we'll take delivery of it. But the industry-wide, that is continuing to creep into the 4 to 5 year range, which makes replacement of vehicles when you're looking at potentially a 5 year wait.
Is there only one manufacturer of fire trucks, or are there like a couple of, is there like a competing thing? I mean, obviously, we can buy automobiles anywhere, right? But
There's a couple of vendors.
Okay.
We are aware of the different prices out there. However, keeping our fleet with a similar type manufacturer allows the ability to move parts from one truck to another truck, or even in the sale of a truck, when we get rid of it, we harvest from it what we can and put into stock for equipment.
Interesting. All right.
We had this discussion actually about a month ago, and there are two manufacturers that essentially have 2/3 of the market, so,
Whoa.
yeah.
Okay, so you either choose A or you choose B.
Not as much competition as we'd like,
Wow.
fortunately.
So to that point, what is the current average age of the frontline apparatus right now?
I would have to get back to you with this. And I can tell you years of the majority of them, but I would need to get back to you on the
Like,
average.
so decaying, or?
We're doing okay right now. We have a 2019 engine, a 2018 ladder, a 21 ladder, and the 11 engine is the other frontline piece. The 11 engine being the one that we're looking to replace. And now with that pushed out to FY '28, little math, not mathing well this morning. add 4 years to that, we're approaching 20 years of service out of a vehicle that we had originally planned to get 10 years out of and then sell it while it still had some value.
So if I,
Yeah, go ahead.
so it used to be that you'd look at an apparatus being frontline for 10 years, reserved for another 5 years, and for a pump, ladders were 15 and 20. So we're really having to push that out to 15 and 20 on a pump, almost 20 on the 2000, by the time the 2011 gets replaced, that'll be 20 years as a frontline pump.
And again, averaging a 5% escalator per year, the 1.2 that we estimated it would be to replace it in FY '26 is going to continue, that number is going to continue to rise over time.
Is that something we should look at now? I mean, they have $2 million in CapEx, right? It would be non-tax affecting.
Yeah, our goal with building a CIP was to get 12 years out of a pumper, which doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
Just as a matter of financial reality, that's what we can afford, is to extend the life of those units out. So,
Right.
And
We
we
usually-
have ways and we have plans of running that apparatus and maintaining it to get the maximum lifespan that we can out of it.
You're comfortable? Not happy? So maybe the right question is, not happy but comfortable?
I think we're fortunate.
You
for the-
understand?
Not happy to
Yeah,
get by.
we're fortunate for the
Yeah, yeah.
apparatus we have. We
Okay.
understand what the problem is. The future is unpredictable. I don't have the solution. The rising costs for repairs alone and trying to extend an apparatus that long is going to present some challenges in the future. But I also understand trying to make the budget sustainable and
we used to use 7-year lease purchase on the apparatus. Now we're doing 10.
Right.
We should not go any longer than 10.
Right.
I've been in past situations where we're paying for a fire pumper, which was sidelined. We don't want to get in that situation.
So for purposes of my accounting and mathematics here, would it be pertinent to just add one line item for the purchase of a new truck and put $1 in there for a placeholder just in case something happens in the next year? So we have something to slide it into if something happens.
Well, we're fortunate the council is a legislative body also, so the council can vote a supplemental appropriation if that happens anytime during the
Yeah, I know that, but I just, for me, the anal retentive engineer, I like to see a line item there that we can justify what we're doing.
Sure.
So where would that would go under, where do you want to put it?
It would be in the capital section.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we add a line item for $1 as a placeholder for the replacement of a fire vehicle under capital. So if anybody's done with that, I would move a bottom line.
I have a question.
13 million,
Oh,
sorry.
Questions? So,
He has a question too.
Chief, you said something, so the maintenance, how close are we now with those maintenance expenses to really being futile and where it's going to,
the
does it make
maintenance
sense?
game is a tough chess game, if you will. Director Porter is responsible for managing his budget to get us to the end of the year. So often you'll see him defer some of the PM towards the end of the fiscal year and then start fixing it, just in case that we experience some moderate failures in vehicles. He needs $20,000 for a brake job. So he'll often hold off on a lot of PM stuff till the end of the year. So you're always looking back a year.
Right. I mean, the last thing we want to do is have an emergency and have police not be able to respond. So, that's a grave concern that I'm sure crosses everyone's mind with some of these maintenance issues. And I know we have the mutual aid compact and all that stuff, but still,
Yeah, I'm confident currently with our frontline apparatus and their safety and their ability to deploy, but we are always chasing issues and trying to balance when we use the funding versus when we could.
okay. Councilor Grassi.
I just got a quick question. Talking about engines, is engine 3 the oldest engine in town? I'm being curious. It was in my neighborhood last night, and I was like, I saw it go up the street, and I was like, wow, that's an old truck. And guys talking about engines, I says, well, I saw the old light bar and everything, so I'm just being curious.
You are correct. What is operating as engine 3 right now is the 2001 Dash that we kind of absorbed during the merger with East Erie. That vehicle is a reserve piece, but it's running frontline right now because Ladder 3 is being serviced at Allegiance.
Oh, okay, yeah, I said so. Maybe we get the PD to give you some money. I'm only kidding.
I'm only kidding. You make
My own challenges, thank you.
make good working relationships.
Thank you for answering that. I was just curious.
Absolutely.
Council Spencer.
I just have a quick question, actually, to Councilman McEachern's ask of adding a line item in, because I also like things nice and orderly, but I'm on the opposite end of that, of why put something in that if we have another way to, so I just kind of want to get an idea from those that have to manage the budget. Like, how do you feel about adding these $1 line items in? Is it easier to track that way or the opposite way? Because I'd rather do whatever makes the most sense to those that have to deal with the budget day to day than adding. I think that makes sense to add that line item in, but I also have worked on budgets where we do that and then we end up with all these line items that trail along for a while. So I kind of want to just get an idea before we vote on that.
Yeah, I mean, candidly, there's no practical impact but $1 on a line item. Essentially, it's a policy statement by the council to keep an eye on the apparatus. That's what it is. If we ran into a problem, we'd be back to the council for a supplemental appropriation, lease purchase arrangement to address it. We've not done that. Hopefully, we don't have to do that. But so essentially, it's a policy statement. That's all it is.
Any other questions?
Seeing none, I'll move a bottom line with the addition of my line item of $13,221,157. You're getting the same one, Chief, for your station.
We'll give him $2. I'll second.
Okay, we'll give him 2.
I'll second Councilman McEachern's motion and add in the line item with $1.00.
Okay. So we have a motion, Councilor McEachern, second by Councilor Garcia. So due to the addition, I'm going to do a roll call just to make sure. So Councilor Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Webb?
Yes.
Councilor Spencer?
Yes.
Councilor Chase?
Yes.
Councilor Mojay?
Yes.
Councilor McEachern?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right. Thank you, Chiefs.
Thank you, Chiefs.
Thank you. Thank you for
you,
support.
councilors.
Just a little plug, May 3rd, VFW Loyalty Day. Several members of the community will be recognized, including 3 firefighters. So if you have an opportunity to be there May 3rd at the VFW. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one quick question for Dave.
Yes.
Hey, Dave or Mike? Or, I guess Dave. This is just more of a budgeting question. On an apparatus or major vehicle, if it has a major system failure, I know like we've had in the past, engines and transmissions go. You know, anywhere between $25,000 and $40,000 replacement. Is that considered a capital, or is that just a?
Yeah, it comes out of the repair budget line item.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, if it's such a significant impact on the budget, we'll look to transfer funds from other budgets. And the charter says I can move money around in the fire department, but essentially you have silos. You have police, fire, public works, and administration. So if I need money from administration to fire, I can't make those transfers under the charter. I've got to come back to the council and request your permission to do that.
All right, thank you.
So we had important business in the back of the room. All right, next up, we're going to do Police and Animal Control. Chief Fioli and Captain Michaud. I don't know. I was just going to make a little correction.
What happened? Oh, I didn't even notice
They weren't yeah.
that was from the
Kim
other
just asked.
I should have looked. Well, we kind of look alike.
I'm definitely not Italian.
I didn't even notice that.
Chief, go right ahead.
Good morning, councilors. Happy to appear before you this morning to submit my 2026 budget request. With me is Captain Michaud, as you indicated upon introduction. If you have any questions that I can't answer, he'll jump in. Captain Michaud is largely responsible for the nuts and bolts of putting the budget together. So I thank him for that, and off we'll go. My request this year is a maintenance budget. It includes no new positions, no new programs. Currently, we have 61 full-time sworn officers, 4 part-time positions in the budget, but only 3 currently staffed. That's special police officers. Overall, we have PD workforce of 74 folks, not including the animal control officer and the activity center for ACO. So that'd be 75 plus the 4 part-time civilians. Personnel, as you know, makes up most of our budget. It's up 6.75% this year. I'm looking for $11,691,513. That is plus $739,924. The driver on that is the 3.5% collective bargaining increase, the 11.5% healthcare cost. We do have 2 SROs in that request, but we also have a corresponding full revenue budget for those 2 positions from Pinkerton Academy. We included increase in overtime costs in this particular request because we actually have, we're going to realize this year the full cost for our 2 canine patrols, and our comfort dog is going to be, as a matter of fact, effective today. She's on her way to Exeter to complete her Canine Good Citizens AKC training certification, one of 3 steps for that process. And as of today, that dog will be turned over to the Comfort Dog Bear, will be turned over to the police department and be a full-time member of our agency starting tonight.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
Yay.
Excellent. Good news.
Roof.
Our operations and maintenance lines are rather minuscule, as you can see, out of a little over $12 million budget. $485,000, 924 is the request for 2026. That's a reduction of 7.78%. The reason for that reduction is last year we had some one-time expenses in there to begin and establish the canine programs. You don't see those this year, so those costs went away. We do have some uniform increases in there for motorcycle uniforms. Matter of fact, we just completed the purchase order and submitted the purchase order to our vendor this past week. We expect delivery of those motorcycles in about 8 to 12 weeks. We did include in our RFP for the motorcycles the ability to provide 2 loaner bikes. So I do have officers scheduled for training at the end of this month, motorcycle unit training. So that'll be exciting as we move forward. There's been a reduction in gasoline costs and a slight increase in training costs. Other than that, no highlights. Now, let me proactively address Councilor Webb's question, which I believe is coming because he asked the fire department. We're at 96% personnel, 4% O&M. How does that affect us? Well, it's virtually impossible for the police department under a tax cap budget, which you know we have. It's virtually impossible for us to make any additions in new programs and personnel with that kind of a ratio year to year, because the allowable increase due to the CPI is generally eaten up by personnel costs each year. So it's if we didn't have the availability of revenue funds through federal state grants, or in some cases our revolving fund for detail revenue, it would be difficult for us to upgrade and keep our equipment top of the line, best equipment, as you just went through with the fire department, to make sure our staff have the best equipment available, and we do, and we pride ourselves on that. Absent those sources of funding, though, it'd be pretty difficult to do that under our current tax cap system. Does that actually answer your question, Council?
Yes.
Thank you. Capital projects this year, big increase, but it's not unexpected. The first item is the Motorola communication systems upgrade, maintenance project, if you will. Maintenance, that's an ongoing cost. It's $89,767 this year. And as the fire department pointed out, they pay 41%, the police department pays 59%, and that's really a function of most of the equipment, the controlling equipment is at the police department that manages the entire radio network for public safety, police and fire. We have a cruiser build in this particular budget. We do that every 3 years, so you didn't see that last year. That's why it wasn't there, obviously. But $554,000 is the money we request to build 10 marked patrol cars in this budget. AED replacement program, just under $51,000, and the digital recorder refresh for just a little over $16,000. Debt service, there is none for the police department. Overall expenses, so you can see that we're up 6%, $12,177,000 this year. 100% of that increase is totally driven by personnel. My revenue accounts this year, up slightly, 4.3%. Largely, that's the revenue from Pinkerton Academy, and personnel costs increased, so the revenue increased. I did re-examine our contract with Chester PD to provide prosecution services. I found that we would have been behind the 8 ball this year. The contract currently, as it was written, called for $27,583 on the revenue side, and I, through analysis of what time actually spent by my staff on that work, would have been about $38,000 this year for FY26. So I renegotiated with Chester Select Board and the police chief and town manager in Chester, and we came up with a new rate of $40,000 for FY26. And that's all been agreed upon, that's all executed. So the net budget, net of revenues, is $11,712,819, an increase of 6%, again, personnel costs. Happy to answer any questions if you look to page 209 on the budget workbook.
Councilor Granessi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Cap. So a couple of questions. Like I said, with the fire department, we want to give you guys the best equipment. So I know what we did when I used to work. So the lifespan of the ballistic vests.
Yes.
What do you, just kind of curious what you guys go by?
So it's 5 years for the manufacturer recommendation, and we include that. That's in our O&M budget every year, and it fluctuates. Some years we have to buy 25 or 30 vests. Some years we buy 10. So that number goes up and down. And there's an appropriated revenue in there because we still get up to 50% cost from the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program from the government. I hope that continues.
Oh, cool. And I believe, was it this year or last, tasers?
I'm sorry?
Your tasers?
Yes.
I'm just curious, the lifespan, when you guys trade them in, get new ones.
We just went through a taser upgrade this year. We have the latest and the greatest equipment on that. We expect that's going to last us 8 years, if not.
Okay, cool.
Well into the future.
Yeah, I knew there was some
Well
new,
into the future, I think.
I knew there was a brand new model out there, and I thought you guys did that.
And we do have that.
Awesome. Firearms.
We just, a couple of years ago now, upgraded our firearms. We got all new pistols and flashlights and red dot optics on each pistol.
Oh, cool. And then I noticed, my other question was the vehicles. I know you guys do a great job with your vehicles, and so every 3 years, you...
So, yeah, the way we manage the fleet is every 3 years, we do a 10-vehicle swap out. Now, that might change in the future a little bit because now I've added, over the past 2 years, I've added 2 more vehicles to the fleet through the K-9.
Right.
I don't expect they're going to be on the same replacement cycle as our marked cars because they're only driven by one officer for one shift a day. I expect we'll get longer life out of those vehicles, but I don't know what that looks like right now.
Okay. And I noticed the detectives have been driving those cars for a long time, and I'm sure they're in the CIP somewhere to change out.
2027, I believe.
Yes.
So next year, you will see a project to replace our detective fleet. Those are 2017s, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we replace those vehicles on a 10-year cycle.
And yeah, the command car, the old Taurus.
That's my car. That's slated for 2027 as well.
I didn't want to pick you out.
That's
I was just
okay.
like,
No.
yeah. Well, no, I know that was, Chief Carone, God rest his soul's car.
Yes.
And I know it's, that's an older vehicle.
So detectives, admin vehicles, we seek to replace on a 10-year cycle.
Okay. One last question about vehicles. The special operations truck. I'm assuming that, because I think we keep it here, correct?
You're speaking of the armored vehicle?
Yes, the Bearcat.
Yes, that is housed, that is not owned by the town of Derry, that is owned by the Regional Special Operations Unit.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But that is housed in Derry. For your information, they just, that unit received a grant through the state to replace that truck. So I believe it's on order, and however long it takes to build it, they will be getting a second armored vehicle. I anticipate when they get that second vehicle that they'll maintain the first one that we have now, and they'll just house it in different communities so that they have assets in different communities to respond.
If not, maybe they'll donate it to DPD and, you know, you can have your own.
I suspect you're going to keep it, but
If they're watching, I'm just like, oh, one last question. I noticed, because the motorcycles, I'm being just curious. I know you guys order them. Are they white or black?
white.
Okay, I just had to ask that question. I take it for a test drive?
If you were properly licensed, we might be able to work that out.
I'm certified through, because I drove my thing.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Council Webb.
Pardon, but I do have several questions. And it's not so much on the dollar items, it's more strategic and looking into the future. One got triggered by Councilor Granessi's ask about vests. And what's the status of vests for your canines?
Though that vest project is actually built into this budget here, we've accounted some funds to be able to go out and get both K9 Latios and K9 Louis fully vested and ready for patrol.
And those are more expensive than a patrol vest for a variety of
They
reasons.
are. Yes, they
Yes,
are.
they're very
Amazingly.
expensive.
They're much smaller, but they are more expensive.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that the same lifespan as a human vest as well?
Those lifespans are based on the ballistic material used to make them, so it doesn't really matter if it's for a canine or a human being.
Yeah.
It's the same lifespan.
I know that from a discussion that we had this week that you're hoping to onboard the cameras by beginning of the year.
Yeah, thank you. We received our order of body-worn cameras a few weeks, maybe 4 weeks ago. They're presently in the office. We are in the final stages of putting our policy together. There are some things I need to go through with the policy, i.e. Get it to the unions and get buy-in and agreement from the collective bargaining units about the implementation of that program. So there's some steps we need to go through, but our goal is to get them issued and out on the street by this summer.
With the cameras, are there hidden costs and personnel requirements that may apply stressors to your department?
I don't know so much the hidden costs, but there are additional labor costs that are going to develop as a result of deploying the cameras. So most notably, the administration of the camera system and prosecution. So every arrest that we make is going to probably have 2 or 3 camera video associated with that arrest. That equates to hours and time, labor, that the prosecutors need to devote to reviewing for prosecution purposes and for discovery purposes through the court system, to providing that video to defense counsel, county attorney's office, AG's office, et cetera, wherever the case may be. And those costs, that is going to add labor hours into the prosecution areas specifically.
Second, Council.
Yeah, just for full disclosure, the chief in his budget requested elevating a part-time prosecutor and the staff to full-time this year to address this very issue. It's just we didn't have the capacity in this year's budget under the tax cap, so it didn't survive the final round of recommendations.
Sorry.
Just to go on and what the town administrator said, I did request additional hours. We couldn't do it. So I'm going to have to look within my organization that I have now and redeploy some personnel to pick up those hours. I can't ask my prosecutors to work more than they're working now. They're already working more than 40 hours a week. And that's not fair to them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to manage the workforce a little differently.
We've been talking a little bit about this, the station, and I know that's a 3 to even longer, maybe 5-6 year out project. In the upcoming years, do you feel space stressors put on your current building based on your current staffing?
Well, based on my current staffing and based on where I think we should go in the future with staffing, whether we can afford that or accomplish that is a separate question. For instance, I'm working on a project that Dave has given me some direction on with respect to opioid settlement funds. I'm working with 2 area police chiefs in a partnership program to develop a social worker, full-time social worker position that would be responsible to address the community that we come in contact with that may have substance misuse issues. And as you know, that's what we do. We respond to those types of calls. So we're looking to use those opioid settlement funds, not tax dollars, opioid settlement funds to fund a social worker position. If we would, in Derry, wanted to do that and house that person and hire that person, I have no office space in my building presently to put that person. So I would hope that the 2 chiefs that I'm working with might be able to staff and house that position. We would have a partnership. We would likely enter an MOU where we would have to pay that host community for those labor hours, for a portion of those labor hours, for whatever ratio of hours we use. That's all yet to be worked out.
And if I remember right, no matter how the MOUs are set up, the host community always seems to get better access to those positions.
That would be true because that person is going to be housed in their office.
Yeah. Just 2 other questions. And the next one is traffic, and I'll save the one on grants for last. But with Exit 4A developing, again, what do you foresee as traffic and traffic solutions for the safe exit and egress from your station?
So there's no doubt about it, Exit 4A presents some very serious challenges for the police department and the effectiveness of that lot that we're on now to effectively serve the community as a public safety facility. There are going to be 7 lanes of traffic in the current design, as I understand it, passing by our driveway at Municipal Drive. 5 eastbound lanes and 2 westbound lanes with a divided way. So that means we're restricted turning in and out of the building. Right hand out only, no left hand turn into the building, it's right in only. So there is an agreement in place with the DOT to create a new drive access by creating a new intersection through a change order process. It's not in the current design as I understand it, but they've agreed to do this. Create a new intersection at Laconia Ave and Folsom with a stub into the backside of our property along the car wash property and the Stinson Hill development property in the back. So the council's aware that we have an MOU with Stinson Hills for a future land swap. These things are all down the road, obviously. That project doesn't finish until June of '28, and so the land swap couldn't occur before then. So there's some challenges coming up with the development of 4A and how it affects our ability to get out into the community and how the community can access our facility.
And that'll be for about the next 3 years, I imagine.
Likely.
Yeah. And the last question, and thank you for your patience, is on grants. I realize that a lot of your programs are funded through, and they're less competitive than the fire grants, but they, come down from the state and the feds. What is your impression going forward with that revenue stream and how it may affect programs?
I don't have a crystal ball. I think the fire chief might have alluded to that. And it's very difficult to say. Let me give you an example. Last year, again, in partnership with Londonderry and Windham, we put in a congressional direct spending request for $1.75 million to upgrade our CAD and records management software. Now, we're operating on a software that's probably 20 years old, and that's, as you know, software, that's old. So we need to upgrade that software. I don't have the fiscal capacity, the town doesn't have the fiscal capacity to allow us to do that without these types of grants. That's a heavy lift, a lot of money. So that program was pushed off because the last action in DC was to pass a continuing resolution that carried through the end of the current fiscal year, which is September 30th, 2025. So there will be no congressional direct spending award for FY '25, because they can't make those awards under a continuing resolution, only with a settled budget. I have been in contact with Congressman Pappas' office about that. They are eager to resubmit our $1.75 million. As a matter of fact, we spoke to them yesterday, and they're going to allow us to refresh that quote, assuming there's been cost increases since we submitted. So we're actively seeking for an upgrade or an updated quote, and we will get that to the Congressman's office next week, and hopefully, no promises, hopefully it'll get funded in a future year. We don't know that to be true. Thank you.
Floor's yours.
So a couple quick ones. Intergovernmental reimbursements, it looks like that's gone from an actual up to $40,000. What's that, Dave?
What page are you on,
Oh,
Counselor?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 213. Little ways down, police, looks like it's intergovernmental reimbursements.
That's affiliated with both the SRO reimbursement from Pinkerton, and the chief alluded to an increase in the prosecution contract with the town of Chester.
Yep.
All right. And then yours is, I mean, you've already explained it, and we heard it, obviously, the same thing from the fire department. It's all personnel-based. What is our budgeted number of personnel as a whole, secretaries, everything, for the police department? What's our total population that we're budgeting for, and then how many are on staff?
Now, let me give you exactly what the spreadsheet says. I believe it to be accurate. 75 full-time, 4 part-time, with the addition of the 3 special officers that are not included in that number, 82 personnel.
Plus 3 special. And how many do we actually have right now?
All but 2. I have 2 vacancies in the patrol officer ranks presently.
Patrol officers. All right. And how are we doing looking for those? Because I know, maybe 6
Well,
months
we haven't
ago?
made-
6
there
months
isn't-
ago, we were at 100%, right?
I was, and
Roughly.
I've since lost 2.
Right.
We lost a 5-year patrolman to Nashua PD last week, on the 28th, actually it was, I think.
Yeah.
And then we lost a young recruit in the academy with about 4 weeks on the job.
Okay.
Sometimes they just don't
What
work out.
happens?
Yep. So we are currently recruiting for the September academy,
Okay.
and we're hopeful we're going to find some staff to get in there. It's
K-9.
difficult.
No, I know. The K-9 unit, how are we doing? I know we had, when we did the dogs over a couple of years ago, you had a lot of folks active, like offering supplies and things of that nature. We still got people donating
Well,
to that line item, or is that kind of tapered off
That's
now?
waned. That's
It's kind of waned
Actually,
off a little?
We did establish a fund for that.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a lot of activity come in lately.
More of a curiosity question than anything.
Yeah, this budget, by the way, fully funds both of those patrol canines.
Yep.
Last year, you only saw 6 months' worth of funding for the second canine. This year, you're seeing 100%.
So from an accounting standpoint, line 680 is for the canines and all their supplies. Mark, is that an appropriate line item to put it under supplies? Or should there be a line item specifically for the canine?
They are broken down in project codes.
Right, and your project code there is 680, department supplies, as opposed of, I don't know, pick a number, 681.
So within that
Specific.
line item, that we break things down by project code. So we're tracking the K-9
You're fine.
expenses by project
All right.
code. It just doesn't
So
show on that budget.
there is an account with a P for patrol canines, and there's an account with a C for comfort dog.
Yeah, no, I
So,
saw that in
yeah.
there, I'm just kind of curious why it's under, I get it, it's under supplies, I'm just,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it needed a breakup, but if
Being
you're
an engineer,
comfortable.
you ought to understand that pinhole those.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I see it on page
No,
251.
I get it.
Of our book.
I just didn't know if it needed to be different. Cool, everything else looks fine to me, and I will make my plea to add a new line item as a placeholder for the station. So I am gonna, under capital outlay, Dave, for a line item you can determine, so I'm gonna make a motion for a bottom line of $12,177,000. Oh, sorry.
More questions?
I apologize.
That's fine.
I jumped the gun.
I just have a couple of questions, Chief, and forgive me if this was covered on a previous council, as I'm new. And I'm fully supportive of the motorcycles. Do you have officers ready to go, or do you have to put officers through training before they can go out on patrol with those?
So I have 4 officers that applied to be members of the motorcycle unit. 2 of them are going to school. It's an 80-hour motorcycle training class in Lowell on April 28th.
Correct. It's a 2-week school.
2-week school, April 28th. So when we take delivery of the motorcycles, they'll be ready to go.
Okay. And do you have a maintenance agreement with the motorcycles? Because I don't know whether your present mechanic is familiar with maintenance on motorcycles.
We don't have a
and such.
maintenance agreement with anybody outside of our department. I don't anticipate we would need one, honestly.
Yeah.
If our mechanic can't do it, where we buy the motorcycles can. And that's going to be out on the Seacoast. Seacoast Harley was the successful bidder.
Okay. And the final question I got, and it's probably not a very good one, but so say your officers are slated Tuesday to go out on motorcycle patrol, and it's a day like today. You're not going to send them out in the rain. Are they just going to be put in a regular patrol car or assigned to other station duties?
It depends on the assigned use of the motorcycles. If it were for an extra duty or an extra patrol, we would just not run that patrol. If it were part of their regular patrol, they would take a cruiser instead.
Okay. I'm good.
So,
After you, okay.
so on that note, so sending 2 officers to the school, are those going to be the only 2 officers, or you have?
No, there'll be additional. We're limited with the number of
Right.
loaner motorcycles we have available to us for the school.
Okay. SROs, so how's that currently working out right now? As far as I know,
That's working out fantastic from everything I hear from the school district. We have 2 assigned to the Derry School District and 2 assigned full-time to the Pinkerton Academy. So a total of 4 SROs.
Okay. And then back to the K-9 unit. Generally speaking, how's the program going so far? Like as far as deployments and non-specifically, how's it working out?
It's working out great. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. So live up to its expectation.
It is.
All right. Did you have something, Dave?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment. Chief, you could have just said taking a bite out of crime, with the canine.
I'll leave that to you.
I'll bring Duncan next time.
Leave
No,
the
I
comment
just
in
want to
there.
follow up what Councilor Chase said. Question about the motorcycles. I believe they usually come with I think they come with a 3-year warranty.
I believe.
I'm not sure.
I believe that is
so
the
out of-
case.
Out of Seacoast. And the maintenance is pretty easy. I mean, Seacoast, maintained all our bikes. Trailer. I meant to ask this earlier. Are you guys looking to get a trailer at some point to transport the bikes? Like if they need service, or do you already have something that you can transport them
Well, I
in?
already have 2 enclosed trailers. I had not considered at this point purchasing a separate trailer for the motorcycles.
Yeah, you can just put a wheel chuck in there for the bike.
Sure. I mean, I think with the current equipment we already have, we could probably manage something.
And you brought me to another point. You said they're going to training for 80 hours. So that must include the motorcycle license also, or?
No, that's learning how to ride a police motorcycle.
Okay, I'm just curious because when I went, years ago, it was 40 hours, and I got certified 2 years ago, and it was 40 hours out at Seacoast.
Yeah, so there are 2 schools available. One is the Seacoast Holly School, which is 40 hours.
Yep.
And another is a course offered by NEMLEC, Northeast Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council,
Okay.
out of Lowell. And they offer an 80-hour class. Harley Davidson also offers an 80-hour operators class. My son is a motorcycle operator in Salem. He went to the 40-hour class at Seacoast. He also sends staff to Lowell. He says, he informs me that the officers that come back from the 8-hour class are far more skilled than the folks that take the 40-hour class. So I want our officers to have the best training and skills available. I chose the 80-hour class.
Oh, no, that makes, I was just curious. And I know Councilor Chase is a fellow motorcycle rider. And when I took my last class, I did it in the rain, and I had to wear rain gear, so I'm sure you've driven in the rain, so that was.
If anybody's familiar with the Boston Police Department motorcycle unit, you see those out in the every month of the year and all kinds of weather, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to get snow tires for them.
Put a ski in the front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Challenging. Well, if there are no other questions, with the,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. With the addition of my line item in capital outlay, for a placeholder for the new station, I'm gonna make a motion for $12,177,439. I'm gonna give him two because Dave Granessi said two instead of the one for the fire department.
You're gonna do $2?
Yeah, we'll give him an extra $1.
How about 210? I'll second Councilman. I'll second
Raise.
inflation. I will second Councilor McEachran's motion to also add the line item of $2.00.
We're just giving you some fun with the fire department.
All right.
This exceeds expectations.
Well, doing the quick math, Chief, one fire engine's
Don't
going
get
to
used to that.
This is very positive.
All right. The quick math, Chief, 20 police cruisers is equivalent to one fire engine, so.
Yeah.
So, on the motion, Council Granessi,
Yes.
Council Webb,
Yes.
Council Spencer,
Yes.
Council Chase.
Yes.
Council Mojay.
Yes.
Council McEachran.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
I have my Animal Control Activity Center is up next,
There's another one.
and that starts on page 253 of your book. It is a very quick budget. It is one person in the Animal Control Activity Center. That budget personnel account is up 25% this year, $111,510. The reason for that larger increase than the 6 or 7% increase we've seen in the other departments is that we had a vacancy and we replaced that vacancy with a long-tenured town employee transferred from Public Works into the Animal Control Activity Center. So that person came over at a higher pay grade than the previous incumbent. That's what drives most of that increase. It seems like a lot, but it's not really. Operations and maintenance are down 6.5%. HVAC and gasoline costs actually drive that reduction. And that's about it, really. Overall expenses, $123,000, up 22%. Again, that's the personnel costs I just delineated. And revenues are down slightly. Net expenses up 23%, $120,809. Happy to answer any questions on the ACO budget. There's not a lot there.
Council Spencer.
I actually don't have any questions this year. Animal control.
Our resident animal expert.
Council Granessi.
I just want to make a comment. I speak to Ginny all the time. I ran into her the other day when I was leaving the station and, asking a bunch of questions about revenues and stuff. And she's doing a good job. I know that she's fairly new. It's been, so she's still getting everything coordinated, but she's out there doing a good job. So, and I know she found that dog that scooted out of the fire the other day. She was telling me about that. So,
Yep. Well,
she's
thank
out,
you-
she's
thank
out
you
doing
for
a good
that.
job. Yeah, I appreciate what she's doing.
And she did she catch a pig or something?
Yeah, she caught a pig, and
Yeah.
It is called animal control.
Yeah.
she's out there doing a good job.
But, yeah.
Wow.
Any other questions?
If there are no other questions, I'll move the bottom line of $123,109.
You're not going to add $1?
No. She doesn't need a new building.
I got two in the police activity center, so.
He's got an extra $1.
Second.
All right. Motion and the second on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, carries 7-0. Thank you, chiefs. and
Thank you,
captains.
counselors.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. All right. Next up, Public Works, Mr. Fowler and Mr. Carrier.
Back to the beginning, but that's all right.
Okay, good morning. Mike Fowler and Tom Carrier here. I also just want to make sure I acknowledge members of our staff that are here also today that can assist with any questions specific to their divisions. Clint Havens, Bob Mackey, Kim Walsh, and Mark LaRue is here. They represent the leadership within the department. As everybody is aware, we are going through a transition. We've had a number of retirements and also obviously my promotion to the incoming town administrator's position. Tom is officially now the Director of Public Works. For purposes of this budget, we've worked collectively and we'll go through this process, but as of next year, I'll be sitting in that seat and Tom will have that role to take care of on his own, but obviously I'll be a resource as needed. So we'll go through this. I think, as we've pointed out in past budgets, we have 11 divisions. We are staffed in fiscal 25, 65 full-timers, 5 part-timers. Tom has gone forward and we are going to be looking to fill positions to address regulatory issues in FY26, and then we also have a new custodian for the new fire station. We felt that position was needed as a result of just the pure square footage that we have to support in the new facility, all the maintenance needs, and keeping that in good shape, similar to what you see in this building. So for the head count, we're looking for in the budget for FY26, 68 full-time, 4 part-time, but 2 of those positions are being supported under the rates for water and wastewater. Only the custodial position is coming out of the general fund in newly raised taxes. As we've talked about on many occasions, this department has a broad range of public services. It touches pretty much everybody within the community in some form or fashion that we don't have to arrest or rescue. So looking at our overall expenditures, it's $11,674,898. That's only up 1.3% over FY25. We are fortunate in some regards. There's been a lot of questions today about what that composition between personnel and operations. We are roughly 50-50. We have a number of products that we purchase, such as salt and asphalt and things of that nature, but then obviously we have personnel. So one of the things I like to put up from my first budget is where the CPIU was, where we are as of February 25. That number's gone up 66%, about a 2.6 annual increase. Our expenditures over that time has averaged 1.4% annually, and then our net expenditures, which goes back to what we actually have to raise and appropriate for taxes, is up 1.6 annually. So the point I just want to make is we have had the opportunity over time, based on a number of different things like energy efficiency, working together with our group to make sure that we can deliver budgets year over year that are very, very consistent and under the CPIU, which is obviously something we want to see for the taxpayers. All right, talking about kind of where we're going in the future. Everybody is aware that Exit 4A is here. Those are going to have major impacts on our department in a number of areas, particularly in the engineering, water and wastewater areas. There's a number of utilities that have to be reviewed, and obviously our road network is going to expand in the future. We also have the Rand Shepherd water main project that's going to be coming down Shenito Road, starting at about the Irving gas station, working its way east. We're going to try to get that project done ahead of the Exit 4A project. So we'll be bringing out some more information, but that project is going to start probably within the next 30 days. We have all talked about thus far in budget presentations about increased labor, health insurance, and benefits. We see that within our department. Electricity rates will fall by 2 to 3 cents because of the solar project. We've talked about that a little bit. Fuel, we do buy collectively from New Hampshire DOT. That has dropped slightly. Obviously, we maintain and monitor those costs on a day-to-day basis. Salt costs we're going to represent level from last year's $76.90. And then the new positions that primarily in the water wastewater are designed to keep up with the regulatory demands, which continue to be more and more as each year goes along. Again, just a brief update, contract 13065B, it's scheduled to bid in May 2024, and construction will go through the next 3 years, and it's an estimated cost of $80 million. Tom's also looking to do a wastewater upgrade. That is going to be a project that'll be under design. That's $12 to $14 million once that is ultimately put together. And then we also have another project, the Southern New Hampshire Regional Water, where that's looking to be an estimated cost of $30 million. No cost to the Derry taxpayer or the Derry ratepayers, but that still has to be worked out with some of the regional partners. So the idea is that ultimately we've just got a lot of construction that's going to be facing us. Another highlight, obviously, the $20 million fire station is opening in fall of 2025. We've got to maintain that. There's supplies and also a custodial position. Private development, that will continue to impact our day-to-day operations. There are some inspections that we do on behalf of the planning board. Those have support by our staff in the engineering division. We have also gone through a significant wave of retirements, and it's been about 20 years since we've had any real changes, and so we're going through that right now. We have 3 positions that are vacant, but as with a lot of these things, people have moved up within the ranks, so a lot of times there's multiple steps that have to be taken within departments. Sometimes you start at a lower position, work your way up, and so obviously we are managing projects in total upwards of about $120 million when we add it all together. So this will impact the community for several years. This budget is designed to support that. Okay, so the first division that we're going to start off with is the Highway Division, page 264. So each one of the divisions, I'll just point you out in that direction. I know Fire and Police have larger budgets and there's only 1 or 2 places to go, but this should be in the order of your budget book. So please feel free to ask questions if I'm not clear about where we're going on certain things. But 165 road miles, 332 lane miles maintained. We have 20 miles of sidewalk, 3.2 miles of bike path. Within this division, the revenues are 906,569, expenditures 436,206. We do receive money, which we believe is secure, from Highway Block Grant. That's $703,000. You'll see that the diesel fuel cost has decreased $10,250. We're heavily reliant upon that. Right now, the state price is down. Road salt, we already talked about, that's staying the same. And then roadway maintenance is $1.6 million. We are proud of the program that we maintain throughout the community. Our PCI currently is 87. One thing that I wanted to highlight in the Highway Division, we have seen a decline over the last couple of years of our contractors that provide a truck and labor. We used to have 16 trucks about 10 years ago, and now we're down to 4 trucks, and it's very possible we could be down to 0 or 1 truck to support us. So when we do a winter operation, we're relying upon town forces with town trucks and town employees who are on overtime, or contractors. But given the fact that that particular item has diminished, contractors are either taking opportunities in Massachusetts where they do receive much higher pay rates, or they just decide, I don't want to do this anymore because it's costing them a lot to staff it, to get insurance, fuel, et cetera. It's going to relate to a change. You'll see within the overtime budget, we are going to be putting an increase of about $50,000 to cover that, where our own employees will be picking up some of the slack on that. We're fortunate that our employees see that there is a need and that they have volunteered to assist us across all divisions. So oftentimes when there's a snowstorm, it's not just the Highway Division that assists with the plowing operations. You'll have water, wastewater, you'll have folks from transfer station, parks, buildings and grounds. So they all help out to assist on that. As a result of the drop in the contract services, we are decreasing that line, the 490 line, by $117,000. So that is a favorable item. We do believe that we are going to be adequately staffed to handle that. And then within the capital project, we'll talk about on the 15th and the 24th, we have pavement management. We are looking to replace a pickup truck from 2014, and we're also looking to add a new 5500 truck with a plow, and I've provided a couple of photos here. That's just a pickup truck that would be used for the engineering division. That truck is on, again, now a 10-year cycle, so that's ready to be replaced. And that is a picture of what we typically have for our 5,500 trucks. They're slightly smaller. They have the wing plows, dump body, and we can put spreaders in the back. Those are tremendous force multipliers for the community. Every year we touch upon our proposed roads. This is just a list of what we have. I would point out that this year we are selecting roads that are nowhere near any of the impact areas of Exit 4A or Shenito Road. So we do want to keep up with the pavement management program, and these roads have been selected for that particular purpose. And that's all I have in the highway budget.
Any questions? Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just ask, same question I asked the PD and the fire, and I'll ask it once because you have 11 divisions. So how often, I want to give, like I said, the best equipment to everybody that works under the public works and all the divisions, like safety shoes, safety boots, hard hats, like safety gloves, reflective equipment when they're out doing road. So how often do we replace that? Just being curious.
So that's done on an as-needed basis, and what I would say is the order of magnitude of those particular products, a safety vest, safety toe boots basically they have within their union contract an allocation, and most employees are changing them out annually as they need to. Safety vest, rain gear, all the other protective gear, those items are replaced or ordered on an as-needed basis. But all the crew chiefs, all the supervisors go through regular safety training, and there's never been a case where we've denied an employee to say, hey, if you need this for whatever reason, it's ripped, it's torn, it's past its useful life, that they didn't receive it. I would also go forward on, amplifying that response, looking at the equipment that we have. We have all the personal protective gear. We have oxygen monitors when you go into confined spaces. We also have the tripod. So all of those items are regularly checked. And if there's a need for any of those to be upgraded, the supervisor would come to the director, and we work those purchases out within the existing budget.
All right, thank you.
Just one quick question. I have several that I'll ask at the end. But what is PCI?
So it's the Pavement Condition Index. It's a grade.
Okay.
So it's just like a if you were going to a high school, 87's like a B+, but it's an excellent rating. We have probably one of the higher ratings, as you can see during the months of March and April. We don't have a lot of potholes that we have to respond to. That is one thing I think a lot of people tell us that we do really well is pavement management. It's been a program that predates my arrival, that it's computerized. We look at the assessed value of a particular road, and basically the worst roads are taken care of first, and then we work our way through doing the treatments as we need to.
Thank you.
This goes back to your initial opening. The custodial position, this might be under building grounds, but for the fire station, is just that, or is that going to be a shared position amongst?
So basically, we believe that the needs at the new fire station will basically require one full-time position. But let's kind of talk about where the buildings and grounds division, and that's down in another division. But essentially, what we end up doing is we have skilled labor, i.e. we have an HVAC technician, we have an electrician, we also have a carpenter. So we are able to leverage those skills as opposed to going out to a contracted service where that costs 3, 4, 5 times. But we have the ability, so we clean the building on a nightly basis. There'll be people that will be coming in and out of the station. I've talked to Sean and Greg about what that projected use would look like. So it will resemble the service what you see here. You have somebody here dealing with the daily cleaning, keeping the floors in pristine condition. But then if there's a need for HVAC service, meaning taking filters out, changing bulbs, that's also going to be supported within this. So there is some
So it's not
crossover. It's not just that one person stays.
So it's just
integrated. Covering
all of
the
it, just
yes.
that position, the
Yes.
funding is going to offset
Yep.
those other, okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Councilor Webb.
That was going to be one of the end questions I had, but in our discussion, you used this building as a great example.
Yes.
And if you could just explain that to the rest of the council, because this is a public record, I think that'll really highlight the need for that custodial.
Yeah, so this building, we have a lot of people who walk into this building and say, wow, I'm shocked that this is 24 years old. And we support this building. As many of you see in the evening, we have 2 evening custodians who basically work 2:30 to 10:30, and they do a great job at keeping the floors clean, keeping everything in good shape. Then we also have a day shift. We do have an employee that works at the police station, and then the skilled labor that I had talked about. So they have work assignments throughout a number of buildings, but we want to maintain this standard of the building going into the fire station as well. We want this to be something where there's going to be a long-term pride. You also cut down your long-term costs if you're identifying problems early on. So it's partly keeping it clean, but it's also maintaining it. It's filters and not letting things go forward too far that you end up having to then replace it, carpets too far. So we're starting to get into this now where these carpets are finally being replaced, but some of these are 24, 25 years old. The second floor carpets are just now ready to be replaced. I think we did these maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So it's partly, when we kick off the new fire station, we want to make sure that we have a strong maintenance plan and it's well supported.
Yeah. So the custodial services basically add to not only the look and appearance, but the longevity of the building.
Absolutely.
And the last thing with custodial services, again, is that custodian is basically going to be taking care of the administrative and public areas.
Yep.
Where the firefighters are going to be taking care of their living quarters and instituting their own pride and ownership.
That is correct. One of the things that I certainly understand is in the living areas, the bunk rooms, the kitchens, things of that, the firefighters will, as they always have, will take care of their own areas, the daily trash, the wipe downs, whatever, things that are related to the areas. But the custodian will handle the larger areas, meaning the public spaces, the offices. There's also snow and ice control that has to be done, in the parking lot. So all of those items will be collectively taken care of between, fire personnel and our new custodian.
Yeah, what was the building, just a reminder, Mike, what was the building we sold last year? Because you have a highway sale of town property. Can you just remind me what we sold?
No, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, that was equipment that we sold.
Okay, that was equipment?
Yeah. We go to auction on any of the equipment when we roll down, like a dump truck and things of that nature. Those go to an online auction house.
Yeah, nothing coming up this year to sell?
No, it's a function of what we have in place. We're getting a new truck in highway.
Right.
So, but it's new. We're not taking something offline and replacing that.
Okay, so we're not.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
not
reason for that decrease.
It's brand new as opposed to replacement new. Okay. And then, so the 1.6 million for the maintenance, that's still good to keep us at 87%?
It is.
That's enough?
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had a couple of years where there's been some state money, like fiscal 22, 23, that supplemented what we had. There were some specific bills in the state legislature that funneled some money down to us. We took advantage of that. We also are, very strategic about when and where. Prices have gone up slightly, but not so much that it has cut into the yield. So we feel comfortable with the $1.6 million.
Okay.
That's up $50,000 from last year.
Yeah. No, and I know years ago we had that at $1 million, I think, when we first started the program. So this was another program. I mean, Jack, you asked about it. So this got implemented, like Mike said before, a long time ago when I was first here, and it's similar to the snow type of deal. We set a number of 85 to 90%. We wanted the roads in a condition. So what did you need to do that? And that number stayed the same. And it's kind of just rotating through roads all the time. And you never play with that number because prior to that, the town didn't maintain roads. And I'm talking way back. Yeah. And then there was one year they actually had to bond. The roads got so bad in Derry that they had to bond
Changed the form of government.
tens of millions of improvements. So in the late 90s, we implemented the plan, like pick a number. That's what you get in every single year, and then rotate through the roads. And the number's obviously gone up in the course of 30 years, as you would expect. But and I'm happy to see we're still at those numbers in the high 80s, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a program we're proud of.
So the Franklin Street and McAllister Court, that's coming out of the TIF funds?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Councilor Spencer?
I just had a couple of quick questions just to clarify on the plowing situation. So going down to having 4 contracted trucks, this is voluntary overtime for our DPW staff?
It is, yes, and we're very fortunate that we have a staff that's willing to step in and take that task.
Thank you. I just want to, and thank you to any of the town employees that might be listening for doing that and keeping our roads clear. I guess this isn't, again, kind of more of a long-term kind of for the future, thinking about that. Maybe lives change, or maybe we have different folks involved. Are we kind of looking long-term at what are we going to do? What if tomorrow they decide we don't want to come out and are we already seeing impacts of not having as many contractors, or do we have kind of a backup plan? Or
so we've been monitoring this for several years. It hadn't just gone from 16 down to where we are now overnight. It ultimately, I think, comes down to picking the right people for our department. As we have been changing, we've got new truck drivers in the highway division. We have new people. Their commitment to working with us is key to our success, and obviously the town council supporting through contracts and things of that nature. So it's kind of a two-way street that your benevolence and your work to put in fair bargaining agreements reaps the benefits down the road in terms of committed employees who will help us out in emergency situations such as the plowing operation. So I think it's a two-way street, and right now the balance is pretty good.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I just have one question.
Chase.
Real quick, as far as the salt goes with the increased, I know it's a balancing game, but is any thought ever given to trying to anticipate cost increases and stocking up in the summer rather than waiting till the fall and for a potential price increase? Sort of like, your home heating oil. Do you buy the plan or not?
Yeah, so the way that the salt contracts work is we buy from the state contract, and so basically they go out to bid, it's usually August or September, and then we fill our shed in the month of September, October for the following year. And then we usually take in about 2,500 tons, and then if we need to buy more, we buy about 1,000 tons. Our budget's 3,500, but to your question, that price is in effect for 12 months. So there's no variation seasonally because the price that was established in September of 2024 carries through until the next bid period. So even if we were to go out today and say, hey, do you have a big stockpile? We've actually tried to negotiate with them, and they say, no, that price is the price. So there's really no advantage other than the time at which we take the delivery, but not necessarily a price savings.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. If there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll move the bottom line of $4,364,206.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. The bottom line, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 7-0.
Okay, the next division is the transfer station, so I'll call your attention to page 281. So I only have one page of slides for that, but I just want to highlight a couple of division highlights. We have about 15,825 tons of a whole bunch of different materials processed in calendar year 24. It's about 440 tons less than the previous year. Same thing with trash, 9674 tons of trash. It's about 150 tons less than CY 23. One trend I do want to highlight is we did see a peak kind of around the COVID period where people, were cleaning out their houses. We had a boom in the real estate market where there were a lot of, move outs and things of that nature. I think trash quantities have now stabilized at this point. These are starting to revert back to kind of normal, what we used to have, back 5 to 10 years ago. Within the department or the division, the revenue is $1,207,284, and the expenditures are $2,975,114. We've talked a lot about the C&D revenues. That has been an excellent source of revenue for the department. That's over $700,000 now. So we still are a hub for C&D recycling, and we take in some really healthy revenues. That was roughly $150,000 about 10 years ago. It's multiplied almost fivefold by our efforts. Metal recycling, it's been pretty good right now. That has been, you know, some of the markets fluctuate, but metal has been pretty good. We are seeing some improvement in some of the markets, but that's, you know, monitored on a daily basis, and we try to put in our budget in the revenue area to have some cushion. We don't want to overestimate, but we also want to make sure we fairly represent what those costs or what those revenues will be. Our trash disposal costs are increasing by about 4% to $105.29 per ton. We are in the last year of a trash agreement, so we're going to be going out to bid on that shortly. So that'll be something we'll be reporting a new number for subsequent budget years. I will get a handle on where that looks to be, but just in general, because of lack of landfill space, incinerators being very limited, in New England, you do have a very few options to go to, and that's going to obviously impact this going forward. And then we are putting in the budget $100,000 to replace a 2015 trash trailer. As you're aware, we load our own trash trailers that are hauled by contract down to Haverhill. So it's important that those trash trailers are functional and can be passing inspection. They do rot out in the bottoms. We do preventative maintenance, but this trash trailer is on a regular 10-year cycle. We have a fleet of 5, and we replace them every other year. So those are pretty much the highlights in the transfer station division. No new personnel in this particular division. It's 6 full-timers and 2 part-timers, and that's all I have.
What about the brush? What happens with the brush? Is it expense to get rid of that, or how does that?
So brush has been a particularly vexing problem. We used to have somebody pay us to take ground up brush, and they would use it for biofuel. That market collapsed probably about 10 to 12 years ago. We used to have people who still would come in under a contract service, but even that's been more and more difficult, because what ends up happening is because that area has some portion of it being unmonitored, people throw toasters, TVs, and it does have an impact on what we do. So, if people think they're getting away with something, it does have a long-term impact on our ability. We just did a grinding job as of early March, and so the project was completed about 2 weeks ago. We have a clear area out there. We're ready to accept new brush as the spring breaks out. That'll last us hopefully until the end of this calendar year, but we'll have to do another cycle next year. But that service continues to be more and more expensive each year.
Councilor Ganarsi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a quick comment about the transfer station. I was out there yesterday morning, and I just have to say your team out there does a great job. Every time I go out there, from dealing with the person at the scale house and everybody's friendly. Up when I've seen people, when they pull up, all your team up there, they help people get rid of the trash and stuff, and which is awesome. I see them sweeping, they keep the place clean. And it was actually one of your team members washing washing the walls over there, and I was like, you know what, they take pride in it. I just want to give them kudos, because that could be a, it's trash. So, but they do keep the area nice and clean, and they're very helpful and friendly. So I just want to let you know that, so you can pass that on to them.
I will do. Thank you. And we talk a lot about positive customer service across all of the departments, and I do want to highlight all of our employees. They do put a very positive face on the community. You see them wearing uniforms. You see them being polite to the customers, and they help out when needed. They do step to the forefront.
And they always have dog treats.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had Duncan there one day, and I think it was Jim.
Dog treats.
I think it was Jim giving
dog treats.
Dog treats, and I had that out there.
It's the little things.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Councilman McEachern.
Yeah, so where, and again, I'm going, you may not have this, I got last year's book. So you did the 30-yard container last year, like you said, you do them every other year.
Oh, no, Jim, that's different. That's just a small, like a $7,900 container. That's just a roll-off dumpster. That's not a full trash trailer.
It was 23,000 last year.
Yeah, I think there was another item that we had within there as well. It was about 15,000.
All right, so how much is the
A new
every other
trash trailer
year?
is $100,000.
So we do the 100 grand every other year.
Correct.
Why aren't we doing 50,000 a year and level funding that so we don't have the gyration every other year?
Well, that's just the gross expense. We lease these, when we buy, we don't buy them outright. We lease them, so we spread the cost over several years. So the tax impact actually is stable through the years.
Okay, so we don't see the gyration then. It's embedded in there.
Yep.
All right. Last year we did a building for 150 grand. It's not this year. What was the activity center under 720? Yeah. Oh, we had a trailer that was damaged.
So what you're referencing to is we had a shelter for our trailers, and that got blown over by a strong windstorm.
Okay.
And so we haven't replaced that as of yet. We're still working through some of the cost implications.
So the money was allocated last year. We're all set with that then. And that's why that's not there this year, right?
Correct. Yep.
So that was somewhat of an unanticipated.
Yeah, one time
wonder. Okay, well, anybody that lowers a budget, you're gonna get me to vote for it, so I'm gonna make a motion if there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Right ahead.
No, of $2,975,114.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second for the bottom line. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 7-0. Okay.
Right, the next division is vehicle maintenance. We've heard a lot today about proactive maintenance, and on page 294 is our vehicle maintenance budget for the Public Works Department. So there's roughly 100 units that we maintain, and it's all classifications: pickup trucks, loaders, 6 and 10 wheel dump trucks. The department does yearly inspections, and we will continue to do yearly inspections regardless of inspection bills that are going through the state legislature. If that does pass and they eliminate state bills, we will still have a program to proactively inspect to make sure that there's confidence in all the vehicles that are going out on the streets of Derry. The expenditures with that division, $686,254. That budget, we feel, is, we're confident that it will continue all of our preventative maintenance and emergency repairs. The age of the fleet is improving, but obviously the older fleet and corrosion have added costs significantly. So, we run trucks that are in salt all the time. And no matter all your best efforts to try to wash those down, get underneath the fenders, things of that nature, a lot of times our trucks have to deal with frame rot. We have to deal with rots of products. And obviously the engines have emissions and things of that nature. They're diesel engines, and they do have maintenance costs. As a result of that, our 660 line, which is the bulk of outside of our personnel, is $252,000. That's based on an estimate of our actual experience and increased expenses to purchase parts and things of that nature. That's up about 5%. And then everything else, obviously, tires, lubricants, and supplies continue to increase. That's just a function of the market at this point. So pretty straightforward. This division is 3 full-time mechanics, and no changes to that composition. And that's all I have.
Councilor Narcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a comment regarding this. Kudos to the 3 full-time mechanics, because there's a lot of vehicles. Just being curious, because I see the vehicles around town all the time, and I know they get filthy and dirty, but they're immaculate looking. Like, people take pride in it. So do they? Just curious, like, who cleans the outside and stuff like that? I'm just being curious.
So typically it's done within the particular division. They have power washers, particularly in the highway division. After a storm, it's really important to get any of that salt accumulation out from underneath, because if you don't, and it stays in there for the summer, you could have some problems at the next inspection cycle, and then you pay for it in the form of a major rot.
Yeah. No, I'm just making a comment. They do a great job. You know, like I said, the vehicles are always clean and, you know, spotless. And sometimes I know when they can go to different areas, they get dirty, muddy, whatever. But I just want to kudos to them for keeping clean and maintained fleet of vehicles.
Councilor Webb?
Again, this is more of a strategic thinking, so don't really expect an answer because it's not appropriate time for that. But as we're discussing the police department, fire department, maintenance, the police and fire share the maintenance facility, which I believe on the presentation that we received to replace was what, $5.5 million?
Yep.
So, again, thinking strategically and options. I understand the need for the fire department mechanic quite well. They have a variety of different certifications. Same thing with the police to do. For people who don't know, there are EVT certifications, whether they're on ladder trucks or pumpers or just other general aspects of those vehicles. But I'm wondering if strategically, in the upcoming years, if we end up pursuing a police department and the maintenance facility, whether it be more cost effective to centralize a maintenance facility with public works versus building, and maybe in addition, versus building a $5.5 million standalone facility. And I don't expect any answer. That's just me rambling. I apologize.
I'll give you a couple of comments. I mean, obviously, you know, in the future, you know, town council can have, you know, goals of that
Right.
nature for review and discussion. I will say that usually the catalyst to not have a consolidated facility is the difference between the police department needing to have a secure facility with marked vehicles and also their munitions within that,
Yep.
and public works needing to be very close to each other. So in other words, that was always the barrier. There are models, and I have worked in a community where it was a consolidated facility, and that, you know, worked out. So there are models that have worked out that way, but to date, it's been a situation where police, you know, have felt that the secure was the most important part to maintain at this point. Fire, I think, could go either way, but police and DPW mixing is kind of that question that would have to be answered.
There's evidence maintained in that police garage.
Right.
That
Yeah.
you have to maintain evidence in the building physically for X amount of years, and then it moves over to the maintenance garage, and that's why. Or that's one of the many reasons.
Anyone else?
Be happy to move the bottom line, Mr. Chairman. 686,254.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. On the bottom line, 686,254. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay, next division is buildings and grounds. That's page 310. So we've talked a little bit about the buildings and grounds division in our opening introduction, but we provide custodial service to 4 buildings, and obviously we're adding on the fire station, which opens in fall of 2025. There is maintenance support to an additional 15 buildings, which is about 145,000 square feet, so that includes the 4 fire stations. We talked about the new custodial position, and we also want to add a dedicated skid steer. So basically, if you've seen the design of the parking lot, there's going to be some challenges at the new fire station in terms of plowing and pushing the snow. So and I'll show you a picture of this a little bit later on in a future slide, but we want to bring in a skid steer for the purpose of parking that at that particular facility, and then it would have use through the other 8 or 9 months at, you know, other uses within the department, in the highway division and other areas to assist moving dirt and things of that nature. The revenue that we're showing is $141,373. Primarily, it's from rentals for Adams Memorial. Cable TV pays some rental costs to us for use of the municipal center. And then the cell tower leases that we have, one at the landfill and the other one at the central fire station. So we were talking a little bit earlier, this is where we book the lease costs or the lease revenue for the fire station. So in any model where we sell off the existing central fire station, we'd have to make provisions for retention of the cell tower lease because I believe that's about a $50,000 annual revenue to the town. Expenditures in this division are up because of obviously the new position. It's $1,068,065. Within the budget, the 430 lines support all the routine maintenance, including fire alarm testing, elevator testing, window cleaning. So that's all done on a contracted basis. We don't do any of that ourselves, so we have to go outside. And then the remainder of the items are all budget. Personnel, fuel, supplies, and repair parts. A lot of that stuff we do ourselves. If there's a boiler issue, if there's an HVAC issue, we buy the parts, and oftentimes we're able to do the repair. This is just a quick picture of what a skid steer that we would be proposing. Highway has one that they currently use, but that would not be available to be used at the new fire station, so we're proposing to purchase a new one as part of the FY26 budget. And with that, that's the highlights of the Buildings and Grounds Division.
Question on the cell tower leasing.
Yep.
Is there any the annual increases to that regularly?
Yes. Within the contract, it's based on the CPI, but we've been seeing somewhere around 3.5% to 4% annual increases in that. It does fluctuate a little bit based on what is on the tower. So if they add or subtract carriers, we've seen some adjustments on that, but in general, it's been an upward trend.
Okay. Questions?
Nope. So you answered the personnel question. Oh, well, if there are no other questions, I'll make the bottom line of $1,068,065.
Second.
Okay, motion on the bottom line to $1,068,065. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, carry 7-0.
All right, moving on to the cemetery, page 328. So as an opening statement, it's the cemetery is 35 acres of beautifully maintained grounds. It's open year-round. We do try to accommodate burials and cremations as we can. Obviously, there's times, shortly after a snowstorm where we are bogged down in other operations. But to the extent possible, we are probably one of the only local cemeteries that do try to stay open 12 months of the year. We did 95 internments in calendar year 24. If you notice, years ago, we used to have far more full burials. It used to be more of a 60-40 in favor of a full burial. Now we are seeing more cremations just because I think of the affordability. That's helped us out in terms of our ability to keep that cemetery, with available plots. We have about 1,000 available, so we don't have any capacity concerns. When I first came here, one of the first things we had to do is we were down under, I think, 100 plots available, so we did the expansion to the east, and that area has slowly filled in, but we haven't had a run on purchases, so we're in really good shape for the next probably at least 15 to 20 years. Revenue in this division mostly from cemetery trust interest, and also costs for services for burials and things of that nature, lot purchases. Our expenses are $180,235. It's one full-time employee and then seasonal employees that assist us through certain times of the season. And I had already mentioned revenues, perpetual care, burial service, lot sales. Expenses are for personnel and seasonal employees. And then we are proposing to replace a UTV, one of these. So Gator, people call them often. It's a 2013 unit. We're going to actually buy a new one for the cemetery division, and then this one will take the plow off, and we're going to send that down to the transfer station to assist keep that on site so that we can actually go around and just do a little bit more monitoring of customers and have some friendly outreach in terms of that. So that'll be downshifted to the transfer station division, and we'll see how long that we can leg that out for. But we are proposing a new one in the capital budget for the cemetery. And other than that, those are the highlights of the cemetery division.
So I spend a lot of time up there, as you know, so they do a very good job up there with the the limited personnel they have, they keep on top of it, so.
Yeah, and thank you to the assistants. I got a chance to see what you and the group from VFW and the other veterans were doing last year, and that was wonderful.
Well, thank you for the support of it and the materials, which we're gonna need some more, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
Is that in here? Make sure that's in here.
Clint, did you get that?
any questions?
This is an easy one. I'll move the bottom line of 180, 235.
Second.
Okay, bottom line is moved, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, 7-0.
Okay, code enforcement, page 337. So as we open this division discussion, permit activity remains strong in fiscal '25. I ran, as in preparing this slide deck, we were at just under $300,000. I think we are beyond $300,000 in permit revenue as of today. In fiscal '24, we processed 1,489 permits and took in $413,000 in revenue. I do have a slide that I'll show you after this that kind of shows the history of where we've been over the last 10 to 15 years as far as our projections. So revenue projected this year is $334,325. That is up by $50,000. So in discussions with Bob and Liz Robidoux about what we see for future projects, we believe that we can sustain the revenue projection for building permits at a higher level. Expenditures within this division are $376,121. That is 3 full-time positions. It's one code enforcement director, 1 inspector, and 1 secretary. So those 3 positions. I do want to remark that our original budget included another inspector. When we went through the budget and looked at the overall impact of the tax cap, we were not able to support that. And I think as we talked about at the opening discussion of the budget, we want to be conservative given that everything is still up in the air relative to federal and state funding. We just want to make sure that if we were to bring somebody on, we wouldn't be issuing a reduction in force almost immediately after as a result of some uncertainty in the budget. So that is on our radar screen to boost that division personnel up. I also want to make sure that everybody's aware, if you're not, Bob Mackey will be retiring effective June 30th, 2025, and that's a big event for us. We're in the process of trying to find his replacement, so that is also a concurrent event, that we are addressing within the department. So other than that, the budget is pretty straightforward. It's primarily personnel costs, and there's about $10,000 worth of pens and paper and various services, but that's about it. And let's just look at the building permit history. So you can see the history. There's been some variation, but it's been, again, a general upward trend each year. And we do believe that, the market is still fairly hot for residential, a little bit of commercial. So we do believe that we can support the permit numbers that we have put in the budget for fiscal '26. And with that, those are the only items for highlighting in the code enforcement division.
Questions? Councilor Carnesi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick comment. You answered my question, but I just want to say I'm glad that you're looking in the future to add another inspector, because I know when Bob retires, there's going to be tough shoes to fill. He does a great job, and Bob Wentworth does a great job. But I know with all the building and stuff going on, I mean, I know they're straight out every day, and kudos to them for doing all that. But I'm glad you're looking to add somebody in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilor Webb.
Just reiterate what Councilor Granisi said, because that was one of my councilor goals. I had a real concern with but I understand your reasoning. I think it makes sense. And I just wanted to do some quick math, just so, again, everybody's aware. Between the $334,000 in revenue and the $376,000 in expenditures, we're basically looking at a tax impact of this department of $40,000.
Absolutely. And it's very possible that, like, for example, this year and obviously the trailing year, that might have been a cost negative or cost neutral
Right.
because we would have exceeded what expenditures were in
Yeah.
permit revenues.
And I think as, we should also consider that as, in the future, as we get a better, as our crystal ball clears up, maybe with the staffing.
Anything else?
So the question on staffing, I mean, is there any way we can get that staff personnel if we truly need it?
The
I
only
mean, I don't want to shortchange anybody and have everybody.
The only
out
thing that
flat.
we buffered, we have in some instances in coordination with Catherine St. Ledger, we have brought in an individual with some plumbing experience that helped us out like 12 hours a week. And it was on kind of a contract basis, and it was during an absence. That actually worked out fairly well. And so that individual can help us on demand. But in terms of a full-time position, you know the order of magnitude once you start to get into offering benefits and things of that nature. It really becomes
What
a
about,
burden.
what about the option of doing a part-timer here, somebody who's, retired and looking to put in, 2 or 3 days a week, Bob Mackey, to, I'm sorry, did I say that? Who may want to, just come in a couple days a week and do some things and fill in that position, right, while it's going?
Yeah, I think, generally, not speaking specifically of Bob, but in
I didn't
general,
say anything.
No. I think, we have to continue to look at creative ways to keep up with contractor demand,
Right.
plan reviews, enforcement issues, things of that nature.
And that's where I'm going, Mike,
Yeah.
because if somebody who is retired and has some skill sets in this, you can avoid the benefits and all the other stuff.
Right.
But in those times where all of a sudden we have an activity that takes place, it would be nice to be able to, either it's, 16 hours a week or on a contract, say, hey, we'll never exceed 3 days, but we need you on call. Is that something we should be looking into for this at this point and put some money into the temporary position line item to help for that situation?
I think the question becomes,
Well, you can go look at it, because
Yeah.
this isn't formal, this isn't final for another couple weeks, but
Right.
given all the activities, particularly with 4A coming online and, a lot of development going on, to the points that both Jack and Dave made, it might be prudent to put some money into temporary positions if you think if we could get somebody to do something like that. So I wouldn't, if it's okay with the chairman, have him come look at that and give us some options.
okay, we'll evaluate that in concert with, with Bob, and obviously with Dave, and I can look at the, impact as we reach that top end of the tax cap. I think ultimately that's going to be the driving force.
Understood. All right, thank you. Appreciate you
questions?
looking at that. Nope. No other questions? I'll move the bottom line of 376,121.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to move the bottom line. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? 7-0.
Okay,
Moving on.
recreation, so that's page 346. So in a general sense, recreation, again, has a lot of impact on the community. It coordinates with 10 plus or minus sports organizations. There's things that are going on in all seasons of the year. They are part of either sponsoring, organizing, or assisting with over 100 events annually. The revenues are $133,827. They're primarily for service base and trust income. So if you pay $40 to play basketball or participate in a program, that's where the revenue comes. Our expenditures are $762,875. Leagues, all programs, leagues, and events were fully operative in FY25. Summer concerts and fireworks are supported in the FY26 budget. We did go up slightly on the fireworks budget this year, I believe, to $30,000, just based on, again, cost of that service. And some of the items that you see have an offsetting revenue. So, for example, we have revenues that come in for concessions. there's an offsetting cost that you will see for purchasing the sodas or the candies or whatever at Galleons Beach and also at Donball Park when we have our summer programs over there for the splash pad and otherwise. So those areas will all continue within this budget. And we're looking forward to a warm summer and a lot of our children and our adults out and about to have a good time this summer. And with that, that's all I have for the recreation budget.
How's the summer employment looking in the recreation department?
Yeah, Kim is in the process of actively recruiting. You know, we have lifeguards, we have seasonal staff. So I know there's some outreach to check in. Many of them are high school and or college students. So when we have the roster who's coming back, there's also some outreach to try to fill any of those holes. Last year, we actually had almost a full complement in both areas, which was really good. So we do hope that that continues next year, or this year upcoming.
Council Webb.
Sorry to keep on asking questions.
That's why we're here.
The maintenance of the rail trail, does that come under roads or does that come under this budget?
It's highway, but again, it's a cooperative process. Like, for example, leading up to this road race out here today, highway went out and did, full review of trees, brush. They were on the trail yesterday using a blower just to blow any of pine needles, things of that nature out of the way. But usually it's highway that handles that network.
Thank you.
I have actually another question. As far as the programming goes, obviously the elderly programs that we provided to the seniors, are those still going strong, or, like the bus trips and things like that? I know there was a hiatus at one point, right, due to...
Yeah, so within the budget, we are seeing, we don't have the bus trips going on because it's been difficult to support with lack of the cost of the bus, plus the costs that we would be passing on to some of the seniors that would be using them. I know Kim and the staff have been looking at ways to maybe downshift. So years before, you used to go off and say, we'll fill a full bus and go to Foxwoods or go to a dinner at Foster's in Kittery or something of that nature, right? Those just don't exist right now because it's been a challenge, because the price point starts to get to $75, $125 per person by virtue of just trying to rent out a bus and getting a dinner at the end. I know Kim and staff are looking at ways to maybe do smaller trips with 15, 20 smaller buses, smaller setups. So they'll be reporting back at some point with some additional options on that front.
Cool. Anyone else?
One question.
Good.
I got, so on line 342, data processing, what's causing that to drop $3,000? Not that I'm against having something drop, but you've been fairly consistent as I look past over a couple budget books. There was one big year going up to 7. Was that because we printed a book or something and now we don't have it?
If it's in the data processing area, I know that the Parks and Rec department uses specific software, RecWare, MyRec, and so the cost to have those annual subscriptions change, and I believe that that's what that represents.
Yeah, because in 23, 24, and now you're at 4,000, and for some reason in 25 you went up to 7. Yeah. But more curious than anything.
It is related to the MyRec fees.
Okay.
So.
All right, no problem. Thank you, I appreciate it. I thought it was. Interesting. All right. No other questions, Mr. Chair. I'll move a bottom line of 762,875.
Second.
Okay, motion second to move the bottom line. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, bottom line moved.
Okay, so Recreation's sister division is the Parks division, so page 361. Those two divisions work, very closely together, just because they have been paired for as long as I've been here in Derry. They maintain 132 acres of parks, 9 multi-purpose fields, 8 baseball and softball fields, 1 beach, 1 splash pad, 2 basketball courts, 5 tennis courts, 2 pickleballs, 3 playgrounds, a dog park, and a skate park. So as you can imagine, the scramble is on right now to try to get everybody accommodated for their first games right now, and it's been wet. So the rush is on, but the group knows their seasonal responsibilities to assist. We are seeing trends of, for example, the Derry Little League or Diamond Association. They have enhanced their interest in playing fall baseball, and so we have been trying to support, that. Many of the sports groups are extremely well run. Kim has a great partnership with all of them, but we also have to line fields. We have to make sure the infields are dragged, grass is cut. So all of those items are covered within the parks budget. We take revenues in of $94,219. And that's primarily from the use of the Alexander Carr Trust for services that are rendered at that particular facility. Expenditures are $1,117,655. That is a blend of personnel. We have 6 full-timers and then a number of seasonal employees, Charlie, that you talked about, for labor to assist, because we have a peak season basically between May and September. And we're lucky that we have some high school and college students that are interested in assisting us. And then we have within our budget cost of electricity. That's for field lighting and general operations. And then beyond that, the other expense categories are personnel, field maintenance, and related supplies. Things like fertilizers, tools, things of that nature are within that budget. And that's a summary for parks.
Questions? So, Hood Pond, as far as the water quality, I know that's always an ongoing thing, and I know Conservation's taken a new kind of interest in that as well. Is there any further plans with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had received a $100,000 grant from New Hampshire DES to initiate a watershed study, and it's primarily based on phosphorus loading at Hood Park. I sat in on a meeting with our environmental engineer, and that was back in late February. So there's a report that's going to be finalized with some recommendations within the next probably month or so. And basically they're talking about some ways for all the surrounding properties, some structural items that can be done to cut the phosphorus loading. And then with that, I think we need to develop a plan if there's an interest in revitalizing Hood Pond, to look at what we can actually implement within the budget and within, which are relatively easy to do. I think you're also going to benefit from some of the stormwater management measures that are going to be deployed as part of Exit 4A. Some of those areas where there was just unmitigated runoff, that is now going to be treated. There's a large detention pond that's going behind Covey Run and Waterview Estates that should help mitigate that. So when we get that study, we will definitely distribute that amongst the council and or the Conservation Committee for review.
Right, but in recent years, it's been pretty much cost prohibitive due to the nature of what the extent of the process would be to get that back to a functional level, not necessarily swimming level, but at least a healthier environment than what it is now.
Correct.
And on that same note, I know that there's no one kicking down the door to do the redevelopment up there, but where do we stand with that, and how do we kind of get that ignited and get that moving on? Because that was initially, when we went through with that, and that was part of the redevelopment and the economic part to kind of boost the neighborhood and whatnot. So how do we do that? So
just to kind of back up a little bit here, 2 springs ago, we had put out a comprehensive bid. It had been put together by TF Moran, had a great plan to build new pickleball courts, new playground, pavilion structure, splash pad on Hood Park. And 6 plan holders took it out. Nobody put in a final bid on that. So that put us at a disadvantage. Now, to go back, we contacted the equipment suppliers and said, look, could we do this ourselves, right, with our own forces? I haven't had a chance in fiscal 26 or 25 to evaluate what that final plan is going to look like. Unfortunately, staffing for us across the board is still a challenge. I think one of the problems that we have is all the stuff that we talked about with the $100 million of, here, there, and everywhere. We have to be on top of managing those items. And obviously Parks and Recreation have these day-to-day, get a field ready, make sure we get ready for a Christmas party and those sorts of things. So it really falls on me to come back around with that plan. And I'm going to be working on it. I've been in contact. We met a couple of months ago between Kim and Jack Leahy to come up with that. I don't see anything really popping out in the balance of this calendar year just because, we just have so many things going on within the department. But what I do want to do is try to look at where we can actually get a few things in a scaled down type of plan. Maybe renovate the playground, maybe look at some other areas. I'm not so sure that putting a pickleball court in that particular location is a sound move anymore because, there are places that are seeing issues with, hey, I hear ping pong all the time. We maybe don't want to aggravate some of the neighbors that live on Franklin and Rollins Street and things of that nature. But so there is a plan that we're working on, but we're just not there at this point, just based on other department priorities.
So now, as far as the bonding that we had for that, what happens with that?
So we still have those funds available to us, but Mark has indicated that, we have to look at being responsible for an arbitrage penalty. So in other words, if you take the money in, the IRS, and again, correct me, Mark, if I mischaracterized this, but if you go beyond a certain number of years, you are subject to a penalty. But again, we've got it covered by the interest that we've taken in at this point. So the funds don't go away. It's just a matter of how quickly can we deploy those.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it doesn't fall off the radar.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was at one point, it was a high point for us, and now it's kind of...
Yep.
And I know you and I spoke offline a while ago, and I was remiss and didn't speak with Kim about it, but as far as the disc golf...
Yeah.
Can we kind of get that incorporated, and is that something we can do at a fairly inexpensive...
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great conversation. I talked to Kim like the day after you and I had that discussion, and if there's a way to bring somebody in who has some expertise or some passion for that, we would love to meet with them because, we've seen it all around the state. I know there's certain communities that have those. Something like Alexander Carr Park would be a great location to perhaps sponsor something like that where it's a 9-hole or an 18-hole experience. So if anybody's in the audience that, would love to step forward, it's a project I think we could do for relatively small money that you don't need to appropriate anything more than what we have.
Right. Because to be honest, I had to look it up. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And apparently I was told by multiple other people that people travel and they go around to different locations to do this, and it's a year-round event.
Absolutely.
And actually it was brought to my attention by a 15-year-old Pinkerton student, so for full credit, it wasn't me. So, yeah, if we can do that, and I guess it's multi-generational too from what I was looking into it as well. So I think if we can do it at a minimal expense, then we should go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. Yep. We're definitely enthused with that. And like I said, it's just something we'd love to partner with somebody who, has some passion, want to do it right,
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Chase.
I have one quick question. Who are you responsible for Smith and Baztec fields?
Yes, the Parks Department is.
Okay. So have you given any thought to the town a few years ago started participating in the Intermediate Baseball League?
Yep.
And the only field that had size enough was Smith, which, as we know, is out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Has any thought been given to expanding the field at Humphrey to incorporate the Intermediate League, being that it showcases more of what Derry has to offer, similar to, you have a concession stand at O'Hara. It's closer to the downtown. People possibly, come in from, because the Intermediate League isn't just in town. Teams travel. The intermediate teams from Derry go to other towns. Other towns come to Derry. When you go to other towns, most of the time it's a very nice field. It's with amenities nearby. And then the other teams come to Derry and they're in Smith. And there's nothing to show what Derry really has to offer. Whereas if Intermediate was played at Humphrey, it would show what we have to offer more.
Yeah, so I think one of the larger, I'll answer with kind of a general outlook on this. I know Kim coordinates with, and Jack Leahy, with the leagues and talk to them about what their needs are, right? So one of the things that used to just have the 60-foot diamond for baseball, and then you went to 90. There was nothing in between, right? Then 50-70 came along, and that's usually like your 11, 12s, 13-year-olds and that, trying to build up so that they can get there. We had talked a little bit about perhaps making Vets Field that way, right, in terms of the softball field. So there is an active discussion, but what I would recommend is if there's some contact from within the leadership of the Derry Diamond Group and or the groups that, you know, play Legion Ball and whatnot, so somewhere in between, to reach out to Kim, because one of the things that we had some discussion about was the need for 90-foot diamonds, right? So we're getting some, you know, pressure from all sides. You know, people want 60s ready to go in the fall so they can play at night. The other leagues play, you know, 90 for Legion, and they also play fall baseball. And then obviously you've got the 50-70 group that wants to play. So it kind of paints that picture of having everybody wanting those all at the same time. But my recommendation would be reach out to them, and maybe there's some accommodations that can be made. You know, sometimes it's easy. You can cut the back of the infield back. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, the only 90 that we have other than Pinkerton is Hood.
Right.
So, but even that is closer to down. You've got Hood Plaza within walking distance.
Exactly.
And I've seen people leave the field and go to Hood Plaza and, you know, participate with the businesses over there.
Right.
Which would be nice. Vets Field, even. Something closer to the downtown to show what we have to offer other than Smith.
Right. And one other thing that I just want to point out, if everybody recalls, part of that recreation plan that we talked about was at the back of West Running Brook School. We had put a design together for a multi-use field, which would have given us some flexibility. It was going to be a 90-foot diamond with a soccer field, so you could use it 6, 7, 8 months of the year. Right. That would have helped our composition. Unfortunately, the price came back, you know, just too expensive, and we couldn't, you know, support that. So that is an ongoing goal for us, is to try to find and manage our fields so that we can accommodate all the different leagues and their needs.
Just on another question, as far as the skate park, what's the current status of that? So I know there's been a couple acts of vandalism throughout the time, and I know that the people who utilize that on a regular basis are very self-governing, and they take it very seriously, and, you know, they have the online chats and whatnot, and they're trying to be proactive with that. But is there anything else that the town can do to try to inhibit some of that activity?
You know, again, this comes down to, you know, protective services. I know police are you know, active in that area. We have vandalism at multiple facilities. It's unfortunate that we have, you know, Hood Park. We have had some tagging at Don Ballpark in the past before. We have cameras in strategic locations. I don't want to give away their specific locations, but those are used in any of these investigations and passed along to the police department. I don't know that we're ever going to truly stop, you know, vandalism. It's unfortunate, but I also think that, you know, this is a community asset. My hope is that the community that's out there, and I mean the full 34,000, look at this and say, let's not go out there and trash, you know, what we have. And short of locking that park up, and we had some discussions early on that we did not want to put a fence and a lock around that. That's, you know, that would prohibit people from getting in and use it. So it's that balance, and that's unfortunate that we continue to see, you know, graffiti going on in that skate park.
Right. So I go up there, and I kind of do spot checks up there, and the amount of activity up there is pretty, it's active. I've seen little as 2-year-olds, and I've seen some seniors up there on skateboards and whatnot. So it does get its actual use. So it's nice to see that people are actually coming out and utilizing it to the advantage. Not to mention the pickleball court.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a lot of activity there. So, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. On the personnel, so did we move a body, lose a body, 110? So.
Which page are you on, Jim?
I'm on the summary sheet. 365.
365, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be down 24 grand, so did we move somebody part-time, or did we?
No,
Are
so
they reallocated somewhere?
No, it's just a function of somebody promoting out of the division, and then obviously bringing somebody new at a lower pay step.
So given that, and personnel costs went down 24, I mean, I know benefits went up. That's the right ratio?
So,
If I lose somebody, and then, or did somebody come in with a family plan that left
so
with
yeah,
a single
exactly. So
plan?
what ends up happening
Right.
is, unfortunately, you have a young employee start, and perhaps they, they're a single plan when they
Yeah.
begin, and then life
Become-
goes
all right.
on for them and it changes.
No, just,
So sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, so in subsequent years, because it's, a junior person, we could see increases in that position just because of step raises and
Yes.
so forth.
The other thing, Mike, are we, and soon to be Tom, are we looking ahead with the addition of the park at exit 4A and all the other things that are gonna be coming in? Because when 4A continues, the rail trail goes up, new Parker Park, all that. Have we started to look at this? I'm assuming it falls under parks, but also may fall under buildings and grounds.
So
So we looking 2 years down the pipe and
yeah,
seeing when
absolutely.
and some of that money would come from the TIF, right?
That's right.
Okay.
We can support through the DCC or Gateway TIF, depending on
Yeah.
which district it falls
And the
into.
same with the downtown, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
once the gateway gets done, once the downtown TIF gets done, are you looking to utilize the TIF funds for an additional couple people here, or another Kubota or something for maintenance and all
So,
that?
and again, that all depends upon the proceeds that are available to us, but the general answer is yes, that we
All right,
have already
general answer.
expenses. Yep.
Yeah, we have that in to
Yeah.
look at, right? Both of yous? Okay, cool. Thank you, appreciate it. If there are no other questions, I'll move a bottom line of $1,117,655.
Second.
Okay, bottom line moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, bottom line's accepted.
All right, Health Division, page 381. So food inspections are the primary, but they do a bunch of other things, as we had witnessed about 2.5 hours ago. They do have some licensing in other areas outside of just food inspections. Health was brought under DPW in 2016. It was under administration prior to that. Revenues are 36,445. Those revenues are primarily from the fees that we get for licensing. Expenditures are 144,373. So it's personnel and mosquito control. That is a contracted service that we will be continuing in FY26. I do want to note that you will see a variance because of the health officer position. It was part-time at one point. We made it full-time in fiscal 22, but in terms of creatively looking at how we could support it, it was put under some revenue from ARPA, but that has ended as of fiscal 25. So we had talked about this last year. You're seeing this effect of it now being a full-time position funded by the tax base as of FY 26. But to offset that a little bit, there's a part-time position, that was office and administration staff. It was a 16-hour per week. And we just have had no success. We have tried to advertise the position. We have tried to put forward an opportunity for people to work. It just has not been something that has been attractive to anybody. So as a result, we're going to eliminate that position. So we only have one full-time individual, Courtney, in the department. She is capable of handling a lot of the office work, but again, that's that balance between taking on going to the field and making sure that she does the inspections and things of that nature versus the office and the phone calls. So she's handling it quite well. We feel okay with the part-time position being eliminated, but just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that statement. That's all we have for health.
Going back on your question though, Mike, the budget in 25 was about 80 grand and now it's 68. So what's the, it's a full-time person, but was the 80 because we had a part-timer
Yes.
there too?
Yep.
So you just put it under permanent position?
That's right. Yep.
All right, because, yeah, normally I see part-time underneath. Okay, no problem, we lost the part-timer. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Seeing no other questions, I'll move a bottom line of 144,373, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. The bottom line, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, carries.
All right, so while we're getting ready for wastewater, page 423, Tom's going to handle that, as you know, his expertise level in that area is tremendous. I do want to say that I remember back when we had Saturday sessions about 20 years ago, we made Tom sit for about 5 hours, and there was a motion made that basically said, oh, you're a bottom line budget and you're not supported by the tax base. We make a motion, and he was up here for maybe 6 minutes after waiting 5 hours. So we at least have to let him go through the presentation before we
Well,
vote.
if his presentation lasts more than 6 minutes, he'll get more than 6 minutes.
All right.
If
No
it
further
lasts
ado.
3 minutes, he's gonna get 3.5, right? So,
All right, so Tom's ready to rock and roll.
he's practicing for next year when he has to do the whole thing you just did.
Wouldn't be opposed to that next year, though, either, so. Good afternoon. Wastewater budget. Infrastructure-wise, we got 66 miles of sewer mains that we maintain, a little over 3,300 service connections, 10 substations. Our expenditures are slightly down this year at $3,549,000. Again, revenues offset the expenses. We are not proposing any rate increases this year in wastewater. One of the reasons why the expense budget is down is we had budgeted for some engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. We've been talking about that for a while. That's been sort of put on hold while we wait for the EPA to issue our new discharge permit that expired back in 2016. They finally issued a draft permit last fall. Public comments ended. That permit did include some phosphorus treatment, which we were opposed to, so we've objected to that. So we're still waiting to hear back from EPA on those comments. Hopefully that will be removed from our final permit so that we can move forward with the upgrades, and that will be a significant expense. We did last year. We brought forward 2 fee increases that were implemented over a multi-year period. One is our wastewater accessibility fee. This year it will go up to $3.76, and that cost goes towards offsetting the expenses for the treatment plant upgrades. That's also a fee that we, as part of the intermunicipal agreement with Londonderry, we charge them annually for purchasing up to 25,000 gallons per day of capacity in the Derry sewer treatment plant. So that is a revenue that comes in from Londonderry as well. Our sewer rates remain at $4.05, as we'll see later on. That's a very competitive rate, one of the lower rates of our competing communities. Recently, through the efforts of the town administrator and Senator Birdsell, we were able to get legislation that allowed through the intermunicipal agreement to charge a surcharge of up to 15% of our rates for out-of-town communities, primarily Londonderry. We've approved that. That came before council a couple of months ago. We're waiting for Londonderry to approve that. So going forward, there'll be an additional revenue stream coming in for that surcharge. Those funds will be dedicated, as you'll see in the budget, towards the end to be deposited into capital reserve for economic development, and whether that's the Route 28 sewer project or some other project. So those revenues have been dedicated to that in this budget. Base charges will remain at $47 per quarter. We do have incorporated, so we did have congressionally directed spending approval from EPA for $3.2 million for the Route 28 sewer project. The cost for that project since that approval has escalated to roughly double that number. So in the effort to move it forward, we've budgeted at least to get the engineering portion of this done so that we have a shovel-ready project if and when we decide to move forward with it. So we have 20% of that budgeted, and then the 80% of that is an offsetting revenue from the EPA grant. We also have $85,000 in this budget to go toward the rehabilitation upgrade of the cab chassis and the camera equipment for our CCTV sewer inspection van. And that's pretty much the highlights of the budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just, we do incorporate in here, we have additional positions. A couple months ago, I met with Town Administrator Karen and Mike, and to go over some of the administrative requirements that have been sort of compounding over the years in particularly water and wastewater. Really, the precipitous was more on the water side of things, but with our new draft EPA permit, there's a number of different reporting requirements, administrative requirements, as well as all these projects we have coming forward. So the budgets do include an administrative assistant position, and it also includes a new civil engineer position. And what we're trying to do is move our skill set in these positions to sort of get up with where the technology has sort of escalated within the department. Meter reading used to be, back when I started here, was a little paper book, and they went out and wrote down the meter number, and they came back and they typed it into the system, and that was it. Now it's 4 different software packages, requires extensive amount of training, not to mention the IT support that goes behind it. And we could go on and on, but those are really the driving forces in trying to bring the administrative. We really always try to focus on the field and getting the infrastructure maintained, and we're doing a great job at that. Just similar to what you see at the roads, we take our equipment, we maintain it, we keep it to a certain level. We just now need to kind of focus with all these projects coming forward to keep the administrative piece of these supported.
Question on the lagoons. What's the operational status of all the lagoons?
So we still have lagoons 1 and 2, which are 3 million gallon a day treatment capacity. We have the 3rd lagoon, which has been sitting vacant since we had a leak several years ago. We reassessed that lagoon, and it appears that the liner on that one also has to be replaced, even though we haven't really had it in service. It's been more of a storage for wet weather conditions, a buffer. So that's part of the upgrade too, but that lagoon is offline. So when we go forward with the entire upgrade of the treatment plant, we will have to put that lagoon back in service in order to sort of manipulate the 3 lagoons to take one out of service while we remove the air system and the sludge, replace the liner, operate the other 2 lagoons in tandem, and then sort of shuffle them around. And once that 3rd lagoon will be at least at 4 million gallon per day capacity, which we've sort of used that as our baseline for our master plan. In the updated master plan we did last year before, looking at the real data coming in based on the concentration of waste in our flows, they're actually thinking that 4 million may be something a little bit higher than that. So there is a buffer in there. When we came before, the London area was looking for the additional capacity of 250,000 gallons a day. We believe that was easily absorbed into that buffer that we will see over the 4 million gallon in treatment capacity.
So with that lagoon being out of service now, are we at any hazardous area where if one of those other lagoons were to go down for whatever reason, I mean, what would happen in that situation? Would we still be able to operate on one lagoon if something catastrophic were to occur?
Yeah, I mean, we would have to do what we have to do. There would have to be some understanding with EPA and DES under a catastrophic event where we lost an entire lagoon. We don't suspect that. The only thing that possibly could come up would be if one of the lagoons went septic or something like that, which has happened many, many years ago. Other than that, we don't foresee that happening. But obviously, we need both lagoons. We have about 1.6 million gallon average day flow coming in of the 3, so we're right around half of our capacity. Okay. And that adjusts seasonally too.
Councilor Ganessi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You spoke about the 28 sewer project. So what is I know we spoke about it in the town council, but what's the timeline to start actually construction on that, or is there one?
So with all the projects we have going on right now, as far as what I understand, the EPA money, assuming it's still there, is non-lapsing. So they were urging us to move that forward because of obviously the things that are going on in Washington right now. Which is why we decided to move forward, at least get the engineering piece of this done. And then probably a year or so after that, we'd start looking at possible construction. Obviously one of the concerns is that requires us to put in a pump station. And you have to size the equipment for your design, and obviously the actual flows going into the facility without any substantial development out on Route 28, that's either like imminent or at least, in the foreseeable future, we run the risk of having a piece of equipment like Lagoon number 3 that's going to sit there dormant for some period of time, only requiring us to put money into it and eventually maintain and replace equipment. So, we want to reassess all of that going forward. We know that's a council priority. We've heard from some of the individuals up at the top of Ryan's Hill that they're looking, at possible expansion plans. I don't know the details of that. I think that, would be the next step after we get going with the design. But Jim Morgan was kind of the one that said, let's get this ready to go so that it becomes shovel ready, so that if a big business or some large development wants to go in there, we're ready to go with the sewer.
Yeah, because even when I was involved with the planning board, I always said that was a forgotten gateway of Derry. And, I kind of say it's like the auto mile, and I think water's down there, but I think if sewer comes in, you'll see people that have property there will either expand their property. I know some of the business owners down there want to do some work on their property and add other businesses, and I know some people who own the property there are looking to sell the property because they can make more money and get some other like retail or commercial development down that section. Because it's my understanding that the sewer would stop like right at or beyond Fodes, or would it go all the way down?
It would be just to the Dunkin' Donuts, which is right after the Metro Plaza there, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
right in that area, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
So we did the agreement with Londonderry. Do we foresee that expanding at all? Or does that agreement cover all of Woodmont Orchards?
That 15% surcharge covers all.
All of
Londonderry-
Woodmont Orchards?
All Londonderry customers,
Okay, so
Woodmont and beyond.
inclusive of Woodmont.
That's correct.
Okay, and Charlie's already asked my Three Lagoon question. Dave's got Ryan's Hill. Nope. What do you have in your fund balance right now, Tommy?
I think there's about $800,000 in the wastewater accessibility fee account, and correct me, Mark, if I'm wrong. And then there's the unrestricted fund balance, which I believe might be somewhere in the $1 million range. So to understand, in this budget also embedded is, we've been building, one of the things that happened several years ago is we had a major project that came forward. We came to the council and said, we need a rate increase to support this project. And one of the things they sent us away with was, try not to come back with a large rate increase in 1 year. Try to build that up. And we've been doing that with the understanding that the Lagoon project is going to result in a large impact to rates. So we've been incrementally building up that rates, that we're in a good financial position right now, that we're actually moving some of the funds, all of the wastewater accessibility fee money that comes in from the town of Londonderry, for example, will be going into this, and we don't typically have a reserve fund in an enterprise budget, but the money is there, the funds are there, that we can then tap into to sort of offset a large rate impact when that bond payment becomes
Right, and that's what we did years ago with and that's why I wanted to know if you had, so you got about 1.8 million to play with.
I believe so.
And more money coming into it, so when we do have to bond for that, the impact would not hit the ratepayers. It's kind of embedded in there now.
Correct.
There may be some
Yeah.
increase, but it's not a spike, so we've essentially been funding that all along. Cool. All right. And then I had one other question. So what was the CapEx funding last year that you're not doing this year again? If you just remind me.
There was $715,000
Yeah,
was
700,
appropriated
right.
towards the wastewater treatment plant. So we budgeted $1 as a placeholder.
Thank you.
Once we know what that permit looks like, we'll do some pre-engineering and then come back to council with a more refined number as a whole separate presentation.
Yeah, because I saw that in there, and then it's from last year, not this year. Okay, cool. Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I'm happy to move the bottom line of $3,549,799.
Second.
Okay, motion to move the bottom line, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, 7-0.
I almost wanted to make that 800 just to make it easy.
Last one, water.
Infrastructure-wise, we have
wanted to just make
just
that
over 4,400 service connections. We see slight increases, with the development coming in, not large water users, but more services. 90 miles of water main, that's up from 72 miles that we had back in 2017. So we've seen a lot of infrastructure growth over the past few years. We still have 3 community water systems and 6 booster pump stations. One of those community water systems will be going away with the Ranch Shepherd Hill Water Main Extension project that will be tied into the municipal water system as part of the project that we just bid out and actually is getting ready to break ground probably in the next week or two. Within that is also 2 other community water systems. They're privately owned neighborhood systems, the Barkland Acres system and the Morningside Drive system. Both of those systems will be tying into that new water main extension. And they will be, we've already approved, the council's already approved to take over the Barkland system once that system is upgraded to town standards and interconnected municipal water supply. Once Morningside Drive is also upgraded their system and interconnected, they will be back before the council asking that we take over that water system as well. So overall, we're trying to reduce the number of these standalone community systems, get them all tied into public water. Our expenses equal our revenues at just over $4.2 million. There is a 3% rate increase embedded in this budget. Again, we did our master plan a couple of years ago. The master plan recommended that we bring our rates in line with, again, our peer communities, which was at 10% per year increase. This year, we sort of scaled that back, primarily with the number of projects that we have out there right now, the amount of grant funding we have coming in. So even though it's a $4.2 million rate-based budget, we're getting several $1 million in from the ARPA grants, Southern Hampshire Regional Water grants. We scaled back that rate increase from 10 down to just 3%, again, making sure that we want to get those rates up to where they're going to support our infrastructure, which is aging. You know, we've had 4 decent water main breaks over the last couple of months, which is usually we're 1 or 2 a year. So we're starting to see that aging infrastructure come forward. So we want to make sure that we keep that money funded. Also within this budget, we reduced our $600,000 annual water main replacement budget down to $300,000. And we did that for 2 reasons. One is to support just keep that rate increase for this year at 3%. But also in light of all of the additional funding and projects that we have going on, that we wanted to kind of step back from and incorporate that into some smaller maintenance work while being focused on the Ranch Shepherd Hill project, the Folsom Road Exit 4A project, and the Southern Hampshire Regional project. So we've got a lot of big projects on the board. So we just thought we'd step back from that. The intent will be to bring that $300,000 back up to $600,000 as we move forward to complete some of these other capital projects. The water in-town rate, again, up 3%, is at $3.47 per 100 cubic feet. We do have a surcharge to our Londonderry customers. They pay at $3.99 per 100 cubic feet. Base charge is up $1 to $34. Hydrant rental fees, this is a fee we haven't really adjusted in many years, and the philosophy behind this is it's based upon the cost of your infrastructure that supports fire protection. So instead of putting a 4-inch main, you put an 8-inch main. You add some fire hydrants and then all the maintenance that goes along with that. Because of the amount of federal money and state money that we've had coming into the system, it hasn't really been a net impact on the Derry ratepayers, so that number, the $398,000 that comes from the general fund as well as from the town of Londonderry for fire protection charges has really stayed stagnant for several years. The budget also includes $262,000 in wheeling revenue. That's the dollar per 100 cubic feet of water that we pass through from Manchester Waterworks through Derry into Wyndham and Salem. Half of that gets dedicated to the Economic Development Fund. 50% of that stays in the water user fund, and the other half goes into that economic development, similar to what we saw with the Londonderry surcharge. This is just sort of a summary on where the rates are going. They are 3%, $33 to $34. The next slide actually looks at the impact on quarterly bill, which would be about $4. Town of Londonderry would see about $5. Comes to about $1.33 a month. Largely significant, but this is the important slide. where Derry's water rates compare to other communities, we are still way down on the ranking. Not always the best to be the lowest. I think that we really are going to see that number change as we start investing more money. Once these bigger projects are coming to a conclusion, we'll move forward with doing some of the more maintenance within our own infrastructure. But we are in very good shape with both our water, and as you can see with the sewer rates as well, we're 24% less than the average of those communities as well. I think that's, we talked a little bit about $300,000 for the water main replacement. We do have a $50,000 appropriation to replace one of our older pickup trucks here that we use for our salting operations at our pump stations. That's it.
Questions? Council Webb.
This is the question I wanted to save towards the end because I think it impacts the whole public works budget. Particularly in water, you talk about, in wastewater, you talked about the federal and the state grants. With what you have budgeted now, do you think that money is reliable for this year?
Currently, yes. The only one that I think is in question would be the EPA money for the Route 28 sewer. Last we checked, it was available.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that before we move anything, sign any contracts. One of the things that, I've been talking with the state on, which is a concern, is we have a $7.3 million grant that we were awarded towards some work for the regional water phase 2, which is to get that million up to 3 million gallons a day to the town of Salem. That's a part of the ARPA money, and the ARPA money has a restriction that we have to have that spent by August of 2026. We also have that same constraint on the Ranch Shepherd Hill money, but I think we're in better shape there. Before we sign any contracts for the phase 2 work, we will have this conversation with the state that there needs to be some guarantee that if for some reason the contractor goes beyond the August 2026 date, we can't be on the hook for any contracts that we've signed. So we're keeping an eye on that to make sure that whatever costs we incur will be covered by the grants that we were promised.
Yeah. And looking in the future, on future grants, is there any, what do you think the stability on the public works side is for grant access in the future?
I'll let Mike speak to the department as a whole. With water and sewer, there's the state aid grant program is still in place.
Yeah.
That's between 20 and 30% grant monies for wastewater infrastructure improvements. That they had stopped funding that for a while. They have since resurrected that funding, so that's, at least that program has been funded in the last couple of state budgets. So that seems reliable, at least for now. And on the water side, the only grants that we would probably see going forward would be through the Water Trust Fund, their PFAS settlements, the MTBE settlements. So there's still funding available. There's a competitive process to get those grants. So those projects themselves, they're project dependent on applications, and so there's still funding there as well.
So just to pick up on the public works side, the block grant is funded at the state level through gasoline and diesel taxes.
Yep.
So that seems to be a secure source. Haven't heard any issues or concerns over that. Other than that, we have household hazardous waste grants and also milfoil grants. Those are small, like under $10,000. But those, at this point, I'm not aware of any pressure on those. And then any of the other one-time grants that we have, like, for example, for the solar, we had $500,000 that we fought hard for. It took a long time. We actually applied for and received a reimbursement this week, and it took about 24 hours to turn around. So we got about $225,000 back in play on that one. So that we feel good that has carried through. But no, we continue to monitor all of those particular grants, and it's an ongoing process, but we would never obligate a contract that's new until we've spoken to whoever the program administrator is to secure that funding is indeed in place.
Great. Just real quick, can you give a quick 30-second synopsis for our new colleagues about the Ryan Hill water issue that we had with the money we got and
The MTBE project.
I always call it MBTA, but yeah, the MBTA.
So the state on occasion will do some statewide testing on certain pollutants. They started the program with arsenic, then they moved on to MTBE, and then they started noting that there were these plumes that came up within the Route 28 Ryan's Hill area. The state was part of a lawsuit against ExxonMobil and some other gas manufacturers for the MTBE additive that was used back in the 1970s, and they no longer use it anymore. As a result of that lawsuit, several $100 million went into the state coffers for funding MTBE remediation. One of the projects that they funded was to get water up to the Route 28, where off of Frost Road, Blunt Drive, there, and along Route 28 itself, there were some plumes of MTBE that were detected. So the state was offering either treatment systems or bottled water. So they partnered with us because we had just finished the water main extension up to Berry Road as part of our own project. So they said, well, you got that far. Are you willing, through state grant money, to continue, which we did. We built a new pump station and we extended the water up to Ryan's Hill. We also had a small detect in our Woodlands community water system located off of Lawrence Road. They also, Lawrence and Stark, and they agreed to fund a water main extension out to that community water system as well. So that one, we don't have to worry about that system anymore. So that we have water mains out in those places. So if any residents start detecting MTBE, there's a availability of public water. Same thing with the PFAS. We're seeing that more predominantly in Londonderry and Merrimack. But there is a testing program that's going on right now with that. But the Route 28 was all driven by the MTBE funds.
So we don't have any PFAS issues here to speak of, right?
There are some detections. The Barkland Acres system, for example, there is a whole separate funding up at DES for PFAS. Again, through some lawsuits, they have recovered some funding. So there was some PFAS. We came to the council. They awarded us another $1.7 million grant, I think, that went towards that project for the Barkland Acres people. Same thing with the Morningside Drive. Some of the outliers where they are detecting PFAS, there's a program up at the state, at least as long as funding is available, where they can apply for up to $10,000 to get either an in-home treatment system, or if public water is available, to do that interconnection.
Anyone else? Questions? Something? All right.
Questions? I'll move a bottom line of $4,202,627.
Second.
Okay, motion second to move the bottom line. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, 7-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next meeting, April 15th at 7 p.m. Council meeting and the CIP. Is that correct?
And the planning department budget as well.
The planning, right? Planning. I failed to mention it last time. We talked about it offline, the flags for downtown coming out of the TIF, and that's, we need to do anything special for that in this budgeting process. We can charge forward with that?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone have anything to add?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Yeah. One abstention.
Good luck in your son's game. You gonna get soggy, are you?